I'm tied to a pillar in a haunted house, and the worst part is that I know exactly how much the tickets cost. 2 Victa. People paid 2 Victa to walk through the Jason Nat's haunted house and get scared by fake cobwebs. And now the cobwebs are real, the cultists are real, and the man with the ledger by the door is counting sacrifices the way a butcher counts orders. 26 out of 36. I'm somewhere in the queue. Next to me, a chubby rich kid is crying so hard he's got bubbles coming out of his nose. Cool. Very cool. Love that for me. Let me be fair to the universe, since the universe has not been fair to me. I've transmigrated twice, once from Earth into a world called Blue Star, where the hottest thing around was a full dive game called Apocalypse. And then, because apparently one cosmic prank wasn't enough, I woke up inside the game itself, not as a player, as an NPC. My name here is Wayne Sturwell. I'm 23, and there's a status panel floating in front of me that nobody else can see. It says my charisma is 98. It says my combat talent is 0 across the board. And it says one more thing, in small, polite letters, like a landlord's eviction notice. Internal test countdown, 48 days. 48 days until the servers open. 48 days until 1 million players fall out of the sky into this world, immortal, respawning, greedy, and permanently online. The locals will get a prophecy about it later. They'll call it the fourth disaster. I already know what the fourth disaster actually is. It's a guy named XB with a live stream and no impulse control, multiplied by 1 million. But that's a future problem. The current problem is the altar down the corridor, where something is eating people. And this is where my second panel opens. Because along with the NPC status screen, I have a cheat, and my cheat is a mini-game. It's called the Transmigration Simulator. It looks like the cheapest text game ever coded, and it does one absurd thing. It lets a parallel me live an entire life in another world, birth to death, in about the time it takes my real body to breathe twice. And when that life ends, I get to keep souvenirs. 3 random skills, or 3 random items, dragged out of the simulation into reality. So while a cult counts down to my ritual slot, I close my eyes and live a life. The simulator drops parallel me into London, 1894, as a doctor of electrical engineering. Great start. Then it's Christmas Eve, I have no money, no coat, and no genre awareness, and I freeze to death in a doorway in 7 days like the little match girl's less marketable brother. A struggling writer named George Bernard Shaw finds my body, buries me, and writes a tearjerker about my tragic life. The novel is a hit. He eventually gets a Nobel Prize. He got a Nobel Prize, off my corpse, rating F. The rewards screen offers me 3 skills anyway, because even a disaster pays out in this game. Basic pickpocketing, basic endurance, basic English. I take them, and my panel unlocks a linguist sub-profession, and I sit there, tied to a pillar, quietly becoming a man of letters while the sacrifice counter ticks to 27. The crying kid finally gets words out. His name is Alan Vester. His father is a duke. His family are clan knights, which in this world means the family motto literally works as magic, and his uncle is somebody important. He says if I save him, the Vester family will remember me forever. My panel agrees with him. A quest window pops up. D rank, Vester family's gratitude. Kid, I can't even save myself yet, give me a minute. Or give me a lifetime, technically. Second run, same London. This time I don't die at Christmas out of spite. I wash dishes. I haul cloth in a textile factory. I claw my way up to engineer. I marry a nice girl named Maggie. I design firearms. I write newspaper columns. And I die in 1940 when the Luftwaffe drops a bomb on my street. Not a great ending, but a full life. And this time the rating is D. The souvenirs are better too. Firearms knowledge, basic shooting mastery, professional English. Back in a haunted house in another universe, my real fingers twitch with the muscle memory of guns I've never held. 28, 29, 30. The corridor smells like sulfur now, which in any world means the summoning is working. Third life. I go for money. I befriend Shaw on purpose this time, and I publish the classics. Metamorphosis, 100 Years of Solitude. All mine now, thanks for asking. I get rich. I marry a girl named Irina, and because it's 1897 London and Jack the Ripper is trending, I buy guns. which turns out to be the correct instinct but the wrong caliber, because what kills me isn't a man with a knife, it's a vampire. That London has vampires. Rating C+, and this time I take the items. An ivory-handled Colt revolver and a Sjogren semi-automatic shotgun materialize in a storage space I didn't know I had, and I find out my inventory interface is so bad it took me 3 lives to notice it existed. Whoever coded this cheat, I hope your pillow is warm on both sides. Then they come for me and Alan. 2 cultists walk us down the corridor and I go politely, hands tied in front of me, head down, the picture of a doomed extra. What they don't know is that between panels I've been pumping a skill point into pickpocketing, and a man with intermediate pickpocketing doesn't stay tied. A sailor's knot is a suggestion. I work it loose mid-walk, wrists behind the loops, and keep shuffling like a sad little lamb. The sacrificial chamber is worse than the brochure. There's an altar, there's a priest named Neom mid-chant, and above the altar there's the demoness, Yu Ying Marian. She used to be a courtesan, then black magic, then a spider the size of a carriage, with a beautiful human face and too many eyes below it. The stories say she ate her own lover and her own son. The stories are the nice version. She looks at me the way I look at a discounted menu. So I stop being a lamb. The rokes drop. The ivory Colt is in my hand before my brain finishes the sentence, and I put the first shot into that cluster of compound eyes. The damage number floats up, 253, which against her health bar is roughly a strongly worded letter. But it's not about damage, it's about rhythm. She rears back, shrieking, the priest's chant stumbles, and I'm already moving, and the cultist grabbing for me catches a bullet in the throat instead of my collar. Priest Neom decides I'm the problem and screams a banshee's wail at me. I dive behind the altar, which is the single most disrespectful piece of cover in this room, and the sound still shaves off half my health right through the stone. 25 points left. In this world, I am, medically speaking, one loud noise from death. And then the funniest thing all night happens. Marian, hurt and furious and starving, looks around for someone to blame, and the nearest warm object is her own priest. She eats him. Chant, robes, sins, and all. His job was literally feeding her, and he has never been better at it. I lean out from behind the altar and go back to work on her forehead. The revolver clicks empty around the time her health bar hits half, so I swap to the Sjogren, and a shotgun built in a fake 1897 London turns out to work great on a real spider goddess wannabe. The blast staggers her head down to my level. I put the barrel in her mouth. 3 shots. She dissolves into a carpet of small spiders scattering into the dark, and the last thing her human face says is, "My children, my beloved." For 1 second, it's genuinely sad. Then my panel pays me 3,500 experience for her, and I feel better, because I'm a simple man. The 5 surviving cultists are still stunned by their god's dinner choices, and there's a ceremonial greatsword on the wall, and I have opinions about people who tie me to pillars. 6,000 more experience. The curse god cult's opinion of me drops to hostile, which feels mutual. 1 more line slides across my vision, quieter than the rest, and I don't like it at all. My performance has attracted the attention of the evil god, Nyastora. I choose to file that under later. I loot the bodies like the professional I've become across 4 lifetimes. 7 Victa and a handful of weather forecast sticks, which, in this world, are little alchemy strips you dip and read. And yes, they look exactly like pregnancy tests, and no, nobody here understands why I find that funny. Weather matters on this continent the way weather has never mattered anywhere. There are people called meteorologists here, and they're not TV presenters. They're battle mages who negotiate with the sky. I cut Alan loose. He's so grateful he tries to hug me with his whole tear-soaked body and offers me anything, absolutely anything. I hold up a hand. I don't accept physical repayment, especially from men. The Vester family reputation counter jumps by 1,500 anyway. Outside, the cleanup crew arrives, and that's how I meet the Sen Keepers. Think of them as this kingdom's supernatural intelligence service, run by the church, staffed by people who have seen too much. Their local boss is Keen West, Alan's uncle, a meteorologist so strong the rain visibly hesitates around him. He interviews me in a carriage while Alan narrates my gunfight like an epic poem, adding at least 2 dragons that were not present. Keen gives me the numbers while the city rolls past. 72 sacrifices this year, 2,592 victims, 27 survivors. And of those 27, 17 later started hearing whispers in their sleep, and then either opened their own veins or turned into something the Sunkeepers had to put down. He says it flat, like a man reading a shipping manifest, and then he looks at me with professional kindness and says, "If you ever hear voices, come to me." Sure, if I ever hear voices, I'll walk straight into the agency whose survival rate for voice hearers is 0. I smile, I thank him, I mentally file the exit routes. He also pours me ice dew wine, a delicacy, and tells me after the second glass that the sweetness comes from aphid juice. I finish the glass. I've died 4 times this week. Aphids can't hurt me. And when I finally step out of the carriage and open my borrowed umbrella, the drizzle upgrades to a downpour on cue. And somewhere up there, a meteorologist is laughing. My dorm is quiet that night. My roommate John, a merchant heir with more money than object permanence, is asleep, and his idiot dog Bobby is asleep on my shoe. I lie in bed, and the game's forum finally unlocks in my vision, and I discover the single most humiliating fact of my new existence. The game has a promo TV series. Auto-generated by the optical brain, the machine intelligence that runs this whole simulation, and episode 1 just dropped for every future player on Blue Star. It's called The Sacrifice. It's my haunted house fight, cut like a blockbuster, and the bullet comments are a waterfall. They're calling me the protagonist. They're calling me Wayne, the god of gunplay. Several thousand people have already typed some version of, "Wayne is my husband," and I can't reply to any of them. I'm an NPC. I don't have an account. I don't have an IP address. I am the most famous lurker in 2 universes. The episode ends on an artsy shot I don't remember being filmed. A book, old and elegant, opening on a list of names. First name on the page, Wayne Sturwell. I stare at that frame for a long time. In stories, when a mysterious book has your name in it, that's called foreshadowing. In my experience so far, in this world, that's called scheduling. The next simulator run changes my life, and I mean that in the most literal way a sentence can be meant. The map is London again, 1894 again, but the moment I'm in, something's off in the best way. I'm rich this time, I'm charming, and the world has a strange golden hum to it. I romance a countess named Jenny. I invent the telegraph a little early and the airplane a lot early. An Italian gentleman named Zappelli teaches me a breathing technique that turns sunlight into fighting energy, which is when I realize which London this is. There's a stone mask on a rich man's wall. There's a moody adopted brother named Dio. Yes, that Dio. In the original story, Dio becomes a vampire and a century-spanning nightmare. In my run, I get to him early, talk him out of the resentment business, and turn him into a physicist. We publish together. The man who is supposed to scream about stopping time ends up measuring it professionally. I marry Irina, win 2 Nobel Prizes, serve in a world war, and then, at 70-something, out of pure scientific curiosity, I put on the stone mask myself. It works. I spend my retirement as a polite, well-funded vampire, and I'm still alive when the simulation runs out of calendar in 2022. The screen freezes on a rating I've never seen. A+, perfect clear, and perfect clears break the rules. The simulator lets me keep a talent permanently in reality. It's called Tony Stark. It makes my hands smarter than my engineering degree, and it comes with a bonus I don't fully register at the time. The vampire version of me gets archived as a hidden template, a lesbian character card with my face, filed away for later use like a spare, much more dangerous me. Sacrifice survivor to future arms manufacturer in one nap. This game is going to ruin me, and I'm going to let it. The simulator, smelling money, immediately unlocks a gotcha. My 3 free pulls produce 3 guns. Not skills, not artifacts, guns. I look at my growing pile of firearms and ask the ceiling, am I collecting these, or am I slowly becoming Dr. Octopus with worse posture? There's also a shop of template cards now, other lives I can wear into a simulation. A gangster for 15 coins, a clown for 25, a god of gamblers for 100. I can afford exactly none of them, which the shop knows because the shop was designed by something that understands hunger. So I grind. Next run drops me into New York, 2006, and if the fake London had vampires, this New York has a full Marvel logo hanging over it somewhere. I hustle dice, win a poker world championship, launch a phone brand called Pineapple because a certain fruit company hasn't happened here yet. I befriend a quiet man named John Wick by saving his wife while she can still be saved, and it turns out that if you do that, the most dangerous retired assassin in fiction becomes your extremely loyal gun tutor. He teaches me things about pistols that should be illegal in 3 genres. Then he goes and kills the kingpin as a favor. I die in November 2008, crushed by a falling combat robot during a business dispute between a certain armored billionaire and a man with whips. C+. My souvenir talents are pure gunfighter gold, and I lie there in my dorm bed whispering, "Damn you, Tony Stark," with the exact warmth of a man cursing his richest relative. Meanwhile, in the real world, the adults are panicking on schedule. Keen West reads a forensic report about my haunted house fight, reconstructed shot by shot from the shell casings by one of his captains. The mysterious book that was seen at the cult site has vanished again. The kingdom is refitting an ancient alchemy warship with 24 rotary cannons to go take coal from the walrus people, because nation's gonna nation. And the court mage has produced a prophecy that's aging my whole species. Countless chosen ones are coming, it says. They fear neither life nor death. Chosen ones who fear neither life nor death. That's not a prophecy, that's a patch note. Those are players. They're describing respawn. Morning brings me back down to street level, where John's dog Bobby has decorated the wall outside and blamed no one, and where campus has a real problem. A body in the grove. A student, organs removed with surgical neatness. Her name was Sharon, alchemy department, 2nd year. An organ work that clean isn't a monster. That's a school of alchemy nobody admits still exists. The Life Alchemy Society. The people who think flesh is a rough draft. The captain on the case is my favorite recurring character before I even know him, Sherlock. 3rd squad captain of the Sunkeepers, meteorologist, deerstalker hat over a face like a retired footballer. I feed him a hint about the society, carefully, like a man tossing bread to a very armed duck, and my panel rewards me with progress on a quest called Alchemy Ghost. And between the murder and the prophecy, I start my actual career, because the gacha keeps handing me revolvers, and this is a world of flintlocks. I sell 2 of them at 15 Victa each. They cost me about 5. Between those 2 numbers, an arms dealer is born. Mrs. Turin gives me my first real clue for free. She runs the breakfast shop by the university, a kind-faced old lady who remembers what every student eats. She remembers Sharon, too. Sharon had a boyfriend, she says, a wonderful, secret one. Nobody ever saw him. A wonderful, secret boyfriend and a missing set of organs. Even 4 lifetimes in, I can do that math. I also discover what my simulator souvenirs do to a classroom. In alchemy practice, I knock out 112 healing potions in a single sitting because a man who has been an engineer, a doctor, and a Nobel laureate finds student coursework relaxing. Professor Wesley checks my cauldron twice, offers me a 20% discount on materials, and quietly begs the class rep to make me stop before I crash the local potion market. Also in that classroom, a tall, shy girl named Rosie Lilly, an actual alchemy genius who stress eats red bean buns when spoken to. Remember her. The players certainly will. The Marvel map gets one more spin because I hate loose ends. This time, I build the phone empire out of graphene, save Wick's wife years earlier, politely rob a Russian physicist of his arc reactor idea, and build my own armored suit before the original manages it. At the press conference, I look into the cameras and say, "I am Iron Man," in front of the man who was supposed to say it. He takes it badly. I die heroic anyway, carrying a nuke into a wormhole, B+, and come back with a shooting drill named after Mozambique and factory-grade mechanical engineering in my hands. Here's the thing I've stopped saying out loud. Every one of these lives is fake, and none of what they leave behind is. My hands really do know guns now. My lungs really do the ripple breathing. The simulator is a lie that keeps making me true, and I've started fusing the souvenirs. Ripple breathing plus shooting mastery, and my bullets come out wrapped in golden flame. The Mozambique drill plus combat shooting, and my draw stops being a movement and becomes a verdict. My panel doesn't have a class for what I'm building, so I check the rules and find the maddest line in this game's documentation. A sufficiently skilled person can found a new profession. 6 specializations, 2 buff skills, 10 actives. It has never been done in the game's history. Good. I like empty leaderboards. I even have the name picked out, Wandering Gunslinger. Around me, the world keeps writing its own subplots. I fish a hidden flame oil recipe out of the library's weather section 2 years before a certain chuny alchemist was destined to find it and become famous off it. Sorry in advance, Leandro. John blows 10,000 Victa of his father's money on a luxury shop that fails in a month, and his father's only comment is, "Send me a dream at your funeral." This world's parenting is medieval in every sense. and at night, the whispers start. Quiet at first, a pressure behind the eardrum at 3 in the morning. My willpower stat ticks down while I sleep, 9 to 4 across a week, and I remember Keen West's shipping manifest voice, 17 of 27 survivors. The evil god noticed me in that chamber, and gods in this world don't send letters. They lean on your dreams until something folds. Everyone else who heard this whisper either died by their own hand or got put down by the people I drink tea with. I lie in the dark, 4 points of willpower over the line, and I make the only promise I'm qualified to make. Not me. I've got 40 days, a gun collection, and a fake life machine. Let's see who folds first. I answer the whisper the only way I know how. I go get stronger in my sleep. The simulator's template rotation throws me a gift, the legendary vampire me from the perfect London run, price 0. Free is my favorite rarity. I pick New York, 1940, and I go to war. That life deserves its own series. I found a company called Starlight, invent the transistor early, build a supercomputer that makes generals cry, and drink tea with Einstein on Thursdays. When a red-skulled gentleman goes looking for a glowing blue cube, I get there first and steal the tesseract out from under him, then reverse engineer the super soldier serum for dessert. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I acquire a lab assistant, a monkey, a vampire monkey. Long story short, don't leave experimental blood unattended near primates. His name is Winston, his tested IQ is 170, and he goes from stealing my pens to running my lab to storming beaches with the howling commandos. Near the end of the war, he builds himself a metal suit, lands in front of a Hydra column, and announces through the speakers, "I am Iron Monkey." I spat tea across 2 continents, one real, one not. We win the war. I found an intelligence agency with an eagle logo because someone responsible should be holding the world's secrets, and it might as well be a vampire and his monkey. And then a wizard falls out of a hole in the air, tells me he's from 2018, and says a giant purple problem is coming for the glowing stones, and could I please collect them first? So we do. Decades of quiet work, then a firefight on a dead planet called Morag, and then the mountain on Vormir, where the stone has a price. A soul for a soul, the one you love most. Winston looks at me. 70 years of shared lab benches, stolen pens, war, and tea. He pats my hand once, like he's the one comforting me, and he jumps. I complete the collection. I put on the gauntlet, and I snap away 921,031 Thanoses across every timeline, one for every version of that grape that ever thought about my universe. The simulation rates the life S. I don't feel like celebrating. Some lives you finish, and some lives finish you a little. The rewards are obscene. I take the items this time, and one of them is a working dose of super soldier serum at 30% concentration. Back in reality, in my dorm, I inject it, and my body finally leaves the civilian category. Strength, agility, stamina, all up double digits, and a new specialty called supernatural physique that quietly promises to grow with me forever. My template classification upgrades from ordinary NPC to elite NPC. In the game's database, a peasant just became a mini-boss, and my 1,000-book reading marathon pays out too. The panel's literary quest hands me a possession card. 15 minutes of my epic vampire self, usable once, in reality. I look at that card the way other men look at their last cigarette. Not now. Not for anything small. The whispers, by the way, take all this personally. Nyastora leans harder every night, and 9 days into my new physique, at 3:38 in the morning, the god's timing finally slips, because I'm awake, I'm strong, and I hear actual gunshots from the alchemy building. I'm out the window before my slippers finish arguing. What I find on the 3rd floor is a fight nobody's winning. Sunkeepers shooting at empty air, and the empty air killing them back. Something invisible, fast, wet-sounding. Sherlock arrives at a sprint, trips on the stairs, and falls down half a flight directly into a formal kneeling position at my feet. We stare at each other. I genuinely don't know whether to say, "No need for such formality," or "Surrender accepted." He recovers like a professional, throws his weather powders, thunder and frost, and the frost sticks to something, an outline. My turn. This is the first time the world sees a ripple shot. The revolver comes up spinning, golden flame crawls down the barrel, and the bullet goes out looking less like ammunition and more like a small sunrise with a grudge. The invisible thing's mirror trick shatters. My new fused draw takes over, 3 shots in a rhythm the eye reads as one, and the creature comes apart mid-leap. On the floor, dissolving, it turns back into a student. Hallwig Gay, exchange student from the Ruins Kingdom. His diary, later, is the saddest document I've read in 5 lifetimes. A professor named Bislock got into his head, taught him that a soul weighs 3/4 of an ounce, sold him an implant for invisibility, and turned him, piece by piece, into the thing on the floor. The professor's club has a name, the Life Alchemy Society. And the diary's last pages aren't a confession, they're a schedule. 5 alchemy bombs, hidden for freshman welcome day. The quest pays 50,000 experience and a copy of Goethe's alchemy handbook, and I go home and level my alchemy sub-profession 10 ranks before sunrise, because apparently the bar for motivating me is a bomb plot. 2 days later, the promo series airs episode 2, Alchemy Ghost, and my quiet night fight becomes intercontinental television. The slow-motion shot of the revolver spin, the flame, the ripple, and a few million future players lose their minds in the comments. "I want to learn that skill," they scream. "You can't," I whisper at the forum like a ghost. "Not yet. Not until I set the price." There's also a fan section for me now. There is fan fiction. Someone has shipped me with Marion, the spider demoness I shotgunned in the mouth. Someone else has sheeted me with the cultists. I close the forum and sit quietly for a while, thinking about the ocean, and how it never asked to know any of this either. A retired pro player named XB posts a class analysis declaring warriors trash and gunner heroes the future, based entirely on watching me. The post is wrong in every technical detail, and the forum stickies it anyway. Fine. Misinformation that markets my future class is just called advertising. And in a dusty bookstore, I haggle a stack of old volumes from 20 Victa down to 5, because the owner doesn't know what I know. They're Windigun's books. The Windigun, the ancient master this world half remembers. 4 hours of decipherment later, I'm holding Puppet Alchemy, the art of putting fighting spirits into printed cards. The first card I make is a mini mechanical warrior, a little clockwork thug in a card frame. I look at my hand of monster cards, and I hear a childhood memory scream. It's time to duel. This world is not ready. Honestly, neither am I. The same errand introduces me to the rest of my future neighborhood. Richard Pesa runs the Golden Oak Herb Shop in the Trade District, and his nephew is that chuny alchemist Leandro, a kid with a flaming heart and the survival instincts of a firework. I rent the lab next door for 30 Victa a month, and the deal informally includes an uncle's request to look after Leandro. Sure. Though based on the plot armor I can smell on this kid, it'll be the other way around. And one door down from my new lab, a small miracle of ordinary life. The Turins move in. Mrs. Turin, of the breakfast shop, and her husband, a paralyzed old man in a wheelchair with a face like a shuttered fortress. The first time I walk past with a vial of flame oil in my coat, the old man's nose twitches and he names the compound through a closed door. Retired master alchemist, minimum. Nobody smells flame oil through oak because they dabbled. I file the Turins under good people, check on them. It's the best filing decision I ever make. The simulator rounds off the week by selling me a new map called Across the 4 Seas for 25 coins, and the price hike alone tells me it's good. It's the One Piece world. My first run there is a modest one, a small clinic doctor in the East Blue who learns something called armament hockey and eventually dies to a flamingo-themed war criminal. The rating is bad, the souvenir is not. Armament hockey comes home with me, and it stacks with the ripple, and my bullets now have 2 kinds of opinion about the things they hit. Then the calendar stops being my friend. The closed beta gets announced, not in 48 days, in 5. 200 players, dropping early, right before a freshman welcome day that I happen to know has 5 bombs in it. And my panel picks that exact moment to unlock my true calling. NPC functions. I can now issue quests to players. I can set the rewards. The system pays the experience out of its own pocket, up to a daily cap, and anything I charge on top is mine. I read that screen 3 times, and deep in my merchant soul, an organ I didn't know I had starts to sing. The players think they're coming to play a game. They're crops, beautiful, respawning, self-watering crops. And I am done being a farmhand in this world. I'm buying the farm. The beta drops like weather, meteors over the countryside, 200 of them, each one a player condensing into a body. Keen West watches the lights fall from his office window and quietly recites the prophecy about chosen ones who fear neither life nor death. Sir, you have no idea. One of those falling stars is about to spawn, feel up his own new body to check the graphics, and do it in the middle of a public square. That one is XB, the retired pro with the sticky forum post. His livestream hits 12 million viewers on day one because watching a grown man discover a hyper-real fantasy world by groping himself and getting yelled at by his new NPC boss is exactly what humanity built the internet for. His charisma stat is 39. The game docks him another 6 points for being disheveled. He walks up to Rosie Lily to flirt, and her affection for him drops 5 points in real time, on screen, in front of 12 million people. Then he finds me. "Hello, husband, I am your idol," he says, and then hears himself, and dies a little. No, wait. Forget the order of those words. Too late, XB. Everyone heard it. Everyone clipped it. I'm polite to him, because I'm never rude to a wallet. Also because he's my test subject. I quietly drag his affection slider down first, to check I can, then back up, because a merchant calibrates his instruments. Then I issue my first quest in history. E rank. Buy me breakfast. 10-minute timer. He sprints. 12 million people watch a former professional athlete run for an NPC's breakfast, and my new economy takes its first breath. While he's chewing his own portion, I hand him the real one. D rank. Terrorist attack. Because Welcome Day is tomorrow, and I intend to be paid for saving everyone. Welcome Day starts with a magic show, and goes downhill from the second trick. The mage lecturer Elvis Bart performs his famous act, retrieving objects from a mirror. He reaches into the glass, fishes around theatrically, and pulls out a bloodsucker worm the length of my arm, which is not the bouquet he advertised. The crowd laughs, thinking it's part of the act. Then he reaches in again and pulls out an alchemy bomb and throws it into the audience. I shoot it out of the air. The blast blooms over everyone's heads instead of inside the crowd, and the screaming starts, and the day earns its quest name. Elvis stops pretending to be a lecturer. Ice armor crawls over him, plate on plate, and the Sunkeeper Ian empties a gun into it for 0 effect. Black fireballs come my way, and I find out my new body dodges better than my brain plans. Mid-slide, out of pure necessity, I invent a skill, firing straight down and letting the recoil throw me sideways. The panel notarizes it on the spot. Flying gun. This world lets you patent your panic. Ripple plus armament hockey finally speaks a language his ice respects. 329 points of true damage straight through the plate, and Elvis stops monologuing and flees through a mirror. 1 bomb down. Sherlock and his squad hunt the rest through the fair, all of them, for reasons I refuse to investigate, wearing dodgeball jerseys. Leandro, 17 years old, chuny to the bone, takes a bomber's arm off with a single sword cut and stands there glowing. Child of the plane. The protagonist physics protect their own. Then the day stops being funny. A carriage comes through the plaza wall, not toward the crowd, toward me. And the driver, red-eyed, gray-skinned, dead, is Coachman Jim. The man who drove me across town last week. 16-hour days, 2 sons, saving up, he told me. In a few months we can afford a bigger room. The cult took a tired, kind man and made a puppet out of him, and pointed him at me like a thrown knife. XB, to his credit, tries to body block the carriage. XB, to his stats, gets run over flat and dies his first death on stream, which the respawn system converts into comedy. The carriage doesn't slow. How annoying, I say, and I hear my own voice come out wrong, too flat, because some anger doesn't do jokes. Mozambique rhythm, 2 ripple shots and a third through the driver's dead heart, 469, 532, 623, and Jim stops being a puppet. I shoot the crazed new out of the harness, jump the tilting carriage, and defuse the bomb bolted inside its floor. The plaza goes silent, then very loud. In the noise, a tired man is finally allowed to be dead with his eyes closed. I check my quest panel for the payout and my stomach drops. The quest still reads incomplete. 5 bombs found, 5 bombs handled, quest incomplete, which means the bombs were never the play. They were the magician's left hand. I grab the nearest official by the sleeve. The state visit today, which country? Ruins, he says. The delegation is already at Witzel Church Square with the king. This is bad, in capital letters, and my quest agrees, upgrading itself from B to A while I run. I bring XB, partly because a streamer is a portable alibi, mostly because he respawns. Witzel Church Square, midday. King Charles VI arrives late to his own event, because he's the Sun King, and the sun waits for no schedule except his. The Ruins envoy steps forward with the ceremonial state letter, opens the folder, and pulls out a dagger with his own face completely empty. Puppet. All of them. Puppets. The entire delegation opens their own veins in unison, and the blood doesn't fall, it crawls, sliding across the paving stones into a hexagram the width of the square. A book floats at its center, drinking. The air above it tears, and through the tear I can see somewhere red and wet and wrong, and things on the far side notice the opening the way sharks notice a swimmer. I shoot the book. The rift snaps shut on a shriek. One bloodworm makes it through before the seam closes, hits the ground, and splits itself across the fresh corpses, and suddenly the square is a horror movie with a crowd of thousands in it. There's a technique I brought back from a pirate's life. It lives in the chest, not the gun. I let it out. Conqueror's hockey rolls across Witzel Church Square like a silent thunderclap. Every worm-ridden corpse drops mid-lunge. Most of the crowd faints on the spot, which is honestly the safest place for them. XB, elite mental stat of a professional gamer, stays upright for a full second, says holy crap, and sits down hard on the cobbles. The experience payout scrolls past 50,000, and Keen West arrives a heartbeat later with his clan training burning, wings of white light unfolding off his back, his family's motto made real. Power comes from justice. The mopping up takes minutes. The king survives. He's so pleased about surviving that he gifts me a rapier from his own collection, and for one afternoon it looks like Daclin dodged the worst timeline. Then, at sunset, on the clock tower of Daclin Fortress, a man in a white mask raises a crossbow that has no business existing, an artifact called Arrow God Boudica's suicide crossbow, and shoots King Charles VI dead in the middle of his own capital. The masked man walks to the body through frozen guards, collects the king's soul into a test tube like a wine sample, bows a small thank you to the city, and leaves. Professor Bislock, council member of the Life Alchemy Society, Sharon's wonderful secret boyfriend by proxy, Hallwig's teacher, and now the man holding a king's soul. The kingdom shakes, the succession machinery grinds, and my panel, with the emotional intelligence of a slot machine, pays me 12 coins for world events I influenced. The A-rank quest settles too, and the rewards finally start looking like my ambitions. An elite specialty that adds a third to my movement speed. My charisma ticks over 100, breaking the human cap, and hands me another elite specialty for being, and I quote the system, extraordinarily charming. My face is now, mechanically speaking, a weapon. Keen West offers me a job with the Sunkeepers before the king's body is cold. I stall politely. Call it instinct. The king just died, which means every Sunkeeper in the country is about to live at their desk for a year, and I have crops coming in. Because the promo series airs episode 3 that night, and it does two things. It publicly escapes XB, cutting his Spawn Day self-groping into a highlight reel for millions, minting the phrase, "I am your idol," as a permanent meme on his forehead. And after the credits, it shows the villain's own meeting. The Curse God cult wants to crack the seal under the city and let Nyastora out. The Life Alchemy Society wants the king's soul as material. And there's a third chair at that table, occupied by someone the camera politely refuses to show. Also on the forum, a loudmouth named Grantham posts that I'm overrated and would lose to Elvis 9 times out of 10. Bookmark that post. Time is going to be so unkind to it. With a king dead and a city holding its breath, I do the responsible thing and go live my best fake life yet. The One Piece map, second serious attempt. And this time, everything clicks from the first hour. I form my own crew, and because branding is destiny, the flag is a skull with a spiky pineapple haircut. Half the ocean assumes it's mocking a certain Phoenix man's hairstyle. Let them. The crew list reads like a heist movie. Ace as vice captain. A sniper. An archaeologist who knows too much. A cyborg shipwright. A lightning god I recruit by beating him up exactly 3 times, which in his religion counts as theology. I build an armored flight suit that runs on cola because my shipwright refuses to respect any other fuel. I spend my nights sparring a Marine vice admiral at his own base while his soldiers sell tickets. I build the ancient warship Pluton in a shipyard city, then build 2 more, because if you can make 1 apocalypse cannon, stopping there is just rude. I run an artificial devil fruit factory on the side and sell to whoever annoys the world government most. Then they take Ace to an execution platform, and I take my fleet to Marineford, and Pluton's guns open the gates of justice like a can of soup. We walk out with Ace and half the era's respect. 5th Emperor, the papers say, Iron Man of the sea. And at the end of the map, on the final island, I read the truth this world buried. The story of a betrayal 900 years old, 20 kings, and a man whose grand treasure was, at its heart, a joke meant to make the future laugh. I storm the Holy Land anyway, drag their hidden immortal off his floating throne, and blast the red line open so all 4 seas can finally touch. The sea age ends. I die old as the first leader of a world that doesn't need pirates or gods. Rating S. 98.6% exploration. The simulator archives me as a hidden template with a name I'll be seeing again, Pirate King, and the retained talent glitches into reality in the best possible way. In the sim, I wore a ring that held a talkative old soul. When I wake, the ring is real, on my real hand, and there's someone inside it. Not the pirate I expected. A woman's voice, cold and precise, introducing herself as a priestess of the sun goddess with holes in her memory. Jasmine. Grand Master of Weather, Master of Alchemy, currently a ghost in my jewelry and immediately disappointed in my lifestyle. Congratulations to me. I have acquired a ring grandma. More importantly, the panel finally accepts my life's paperwork. 6 specializations, 2 buffs, 10 actives, all boxes ticked. A new profession is born, first in the game's history. Wandering Gunslinger, Level 1. Primary attribute Agility, mana replaced by Focus, and 2 founding specialties, Quick Draw, and 1 called Fancy Gunplay, which mechanically adds 50% to skill aesthetics. The system has made my flashiness a stat. I have never felt so seen by a machine. Now, a class needs students, and students need to pay. Enter Jinsei. In my past life as a player, Jinsei was famous as the game's most devoted bootlicker, a girl who ground 492 errand quests for the protagonist Leandro's ring. In this life, I hire her first. Alchemist Apprentice, 8 Victa a month. Then I sell her my class change book at a limited time discount, and she asks for a salary advance to buy it, which was the exact shape of my plan. My employee now pays me tuition with my own wages. Somewhere, an economics textbook bursts into tears and doesn't know why. Elvis interrupts my golden age by trying to kill me, which is becoming this city's love language. He ambushes me into a twisted mirror world, a pocket dimension where the streets bend wrong and the geometry looks like a builder gave up halfway. "Welcome to my world," he announces, in a voice he's clearly practiced in an actual mirror. The clip of it will live in the top 10 memes for years. Bullets curve wrong in there. My aim means nothing. He offers me a place in the cult with the confidence of a man holding every card. So I play the card he doesn't know exists. 15 minutes of epic vampire. The possession card burns, and the world drops into slow motion, and I stop being a gunslinger with good stats and become something the mirror dimension regrets inviting. His bloodworms lunge, and I catch them out of the air by the neck, and use one as a fan blade to swat the others. His fireballs break on my chest like warm bread. Elvis, level 44, high priest of the curse god cult, dies to my bare hands in his own pocket world, and the experience counter rolls past 159,000 and keeps going. He drops a key stamped Green Shade Inn, room 304. Villains really do carry their plot hooks on them. The series airs his Welcome to My World line the same week, edited over his death, and the forum turns him into a cautionary meme. Grantham, the man who gave Elvis 9 wins out of 10 against me, gets tagged in the replies so many times his username briefly becomes a unit of wrongness. Between fights, my little empire keeps compounding. Ian, one of Sherlock's sunkeepers, eats one of my homemade devil fruits and turns into a bison man in front of his boss, and instead of a scandal, I get a purchase order. Keen West wants a batch, 700 Victa each, weekly pickup. My cost is about 230. When the state becomes your regular customer, that's not smuggling anymore, that's procurement. Jasmine wakes fully in her ring during the negotiation and offers her first sentence of live commentary, telling me the Bison Man radiates bad luck and I should never take stock advice from him. Noted, Grandma. In an underground market stall, I find another Windigun volume, an introduction to life science, and the decipherment keeps me up all night for a different reason than usual. The old master didn't just study life, he built it. He made a dragon from scratch. And the last line of the book, in a tired old hand, says he wanted to dissect a god. The books, the society, the king's bottled soul. This city's homework is starting to rhyme. The simulator also unlocks a flashback mode, replaying old maps with template cards, and I test it with the maddest card on the shelf, the Mad Clown, Chaotic Evil, Control Disabled. Watching that run is like watching a car crash conducted as an orchestra. Clown Me robs banks with choreographed kill chains, corrupts the big green scientist into a full-time villain, bankrupts Tony Stark with a shapeshifter double, and gasses an entire spy agency. At the peak of it, Clown Me runs into Vampire Me, my own archived hero template living in the same timeline, and the two of them stare at each other across a burning street. The most dangerous criminal and the greatest hero in that world share a face. Mine. I close the replay feeling like I've read my own autopsy, twice. The rewards are real, though. Another serum dose and an explosive genius talent, and my agility crosses 50 while my conscience files no objection. Then I find the cult's actual headquarters, because television is a wonderful thing. The post-credits scene showed their safe house for 2 seconds. Blue roof, river light on the windows. I spend a day sweeping the riverside districts by carriage with a checklist, and there it is. Rope Avenue 135. I go in through the mirrors. Because that's the cult's own trick. Their mirrors are a network. Doors and spy holes strung through a void where a ruined elven city floats in the dark and a staircase climbs to nothing. I kill a mirror ghost on the way through and step out inside their shrine. Altar to Nyastora, 12 corpses arranged with love, 4 kneeling supplicants who don't finish their prayer, and a portrait on the wall that winks at me. The ambush is a level 60 clan knight in black robes, and his family's motto hits me before he does. All things are created by human will, and his will comes down like a whip made of migraine, and my legs stop being mine. I survive on grappling hook, one shameless bomb, and the healthy cowardice of a man who knows the difference between a fight and an appointment. The bomb eats a fifth of his health and all of his composure, and I'm gone before the dust picks a direction. 35 Victa at a bar called Wine and Wolverine buys me his name. Harrison Rivers, Viscount. Chairman of the Legislative Committee in the Upper House, personal friend of the late king, currently shepherding a poor law amendment through Parliament. A cult high priest is writing this country's welfare policy. I write an anonymous tip to the church, and I underline nothing because the facts are loud enough. That week also bills me for the life I've been living. Richard Pesa, the kind herbalist who rented me my lab, makes the morning paper. 9 dead. The whispers got him. The same whispers that visit me, and the thing wearing his face afterward begs me for help with his own voice before it lunges. I put him down myself. I don't let the Sunkeepers do it, because to them he's a case number, and to me he's my landlord, and a man deserves at least one mourner who knew his tea order. Hat over my chest, a bow, then back to work, because in Dockland, grief is a luxury tax. And one more line item, almost lost in the noise. A serial quest pops about sightings in Moomin Park. A giant, 15 yards tall, walking by night. Witnesses say it has the face of the dead king. The transcendent gathering is where this city's monsters go shopping. And I fit right in now. It's an invitation-only market with an artifact called the Doom Balance sitting in the center, a set of scales that weighs the true value of goods and secrets so nobody can cheat anybody. Naturally, everyone spends the whole evening trying. I walk out with 3 purchases and a profit. A cursed flintlock that once belonged to a pirate general, 60 Victa, and the curse is the point. Anyone it marks becomes a walking skeleton for 30 seconds, defense 0, while the gun feeds itself infinite ammunition. The catch is the curse flows back at the wielder, so I don't wield it. I hand it to my mini mechanical warrior card, because you cannot curse a machine's luck. The seller watches me weaponize his cursed clearance item and looks like he wants to renegotiate. I also buy an ancient puzzle cube of the Moderic people, basically a stone hard drive nobody can read, and a flying potion blueprint. And when the Doom Balance appraises my homemade devil fruit as worth far more than anyone guessed, I sell one for the cube plus 600 and float home on the warm updraft of other people's regret. Then the simulator offers me its most expensive map yet, War of the Gods, 60 coins. I pay, and it drops me somewhere that stops my breath. Year 125, pre-Daclin. This is the apocalypse world's own past, my real world, before it built its skyline. I live an entire founder's life there. I meet a young elf named Louisa, who will one day be a high priestess. I meet a stubborn kid named Archibald, long before anyone calls him the Flame of Justice. And I meet a 16-year-old priestess of the sun goddess, with a cold voice and exact opinions, Molly Jasmine Cronin. Jasmine, my ring grandma. I'm walking around inside her youth. I invent the steam engine a few centuries early. I get ennobled, and at the ceremony the kingdom's magic reaches into my chest and writes a family motto there, a real clan training of my own. Knowledge is power. From that day, If I keep 2 books a day moving through my head, I can burn the motto and have every skill I own step up 40% for 3 minutes. It's the most me superpower ever issued. I rise until the throne is a formality, and the night before my coronation, they kill me. Royalists, cultists, and one church in a temporary agreement, 30 blades worth of consensus. The rating is a C, and the summary text is almost gentle about it, and then the after-history scrolls, and my blood goes cold, line by line. After my death, the cult sacrifices 2,000 miners in the Daklan mine. Nyastora rises. 3 heroes seal it under the mine, and a city is built on top of the seal, like a lid. 3 heroes. The records of that era name 4. The 4th was erased, and his hooded statue still stands by the Seton River in my present, holding a book, name worn off. I've walked past my own statue. I fought in the war this city is built on, and the whisper under my pillow every night comes from the thing I helped bury before I was born. Time travel is a scam, and I want my nerves back. What I keep from that life is worth the vertigo. The motto comes home with me, real, burned into my chest. Knowledge is power. Plus an elite specialty that quietly fattens all my experience gains, because of course the universe pays the man who reads. The reading itself pays out the same week. My 5,000 book marathon completes its 2nd stage, and the literary quest hands me a permanent template instead of a trinket. The card shows me in a plain suit with a plain tie and a face designed to be forgotten. Its title is Ordinary Office Worker. Its skill list contains exactly 1 entry, a pink-knuckled ghost with a detonation habit that any manga reader would recognize on sight and then quietly leave the room. I test him in a flashback run, Rome, 1938, and it's the laziest masterpiece of my collection. Office worker me wants one thing from life, which is nothing. A quiet desk, a regular bakery, an early night. The local mafia decides the quiet foreigner needs a lesson, and the quiet foreigner's ghost turns their sedan into weather off-screen, without him even setting down his espresso. He marries a calm woman, keeps a garden, evades every plot hook the world throws at him with the footwork of a man dodging office parties, and dies at 68 of a mosquito bite, the one enemy his ghost couldn't punch. The rating is a C-, and the summary calls his life a vegetative state, and he would have taken that as a compliment. The souvenirs are a powder file from something ancient and terrible, an advanced cooking skill, and fluent Italian. My deadliest template is a menswear catalog model who can end a city block, and his legacy to me is pasta. I love my collection. My collection needs a warning label. Back in the present, the survivors of my old campaigns keep interrupting my grind, and the little broken book finally steps out of the subtext. Here's what I pieced together from a stolen glance in a nightmare and 100 small wrong misses. Somewhere in this city sits an artifact, an old score called Leon Cavallo's 4-act opera, and it doesn't predict events, it schedules them. The haunted house where this all started was its Act 1, Scene 1. Holwig was a stage direction, and scattered through its pages in a neat obsessive hand are drafts of a recurring scene titled The Death of Wayne Sturwell. Elvis was one draft. It failed. The next failed too. The book keeps writing my funeral, and I keep missing my curtain call, and I have never been prouder of poor attendance. Draft number 3 has production values. 52 Moomin Street, an ambush with Harrison Rivers himself and a stone esper named Alva Roskin, and a survival quest stamped A rank before I finish blinking. Harrison's will whip locks my body, and this time there's no crowd to perform for and no exit to charm. Jasmine takes my body for 30 seconds, white flame in my veins, armor of light, an old priestess showing 2 cultists what her century considered basic manners, and she breaks the bind. Then my turn, and my kind of plan, which is to say a plan with the dignity of a mousetrap. 1 bomb to make Harrison flinch. My clockwork card soldier standing in the smoke with the cursed flintlock, and its 7th shot lands the curse, and Alva Roskin, Esper of Living Stone, spends 8 seconds as a skeleton with 0 defense. Ripplefire does the arithmetic. 80,000 experience, 1 cult ace deleted. Harrison is still a wall I can't climb, so I don't climb it. I line up 3 identical clockwork soldiers out of the smoke, tip my hat, and mention that the Esper squad is on its way. Would he care to continue? He would not. I walk out of my own scheduled death at a stroll. The book takes the review badly. Its bait bookseller dies under a collapsing ceiling that night, the price of a failed performance, and my sleep serves me a picture I didn't order. A young man at a desk, handsome, cold, eyes like a mad archivist, writing. The keeper turning the pages. Somewhere between the ink and the applause, this stopped being politics. The book hates me personally now. Good. Hatred makes playwrights sloppy. Then the promo series does me the biggest favor of the war. Episode 5, a 2-hour special right before open beta, and the optical brain, bless its uncanny editorial spine, airs the book itself, shows its pages, shows dialogue written in advance matching events word for word. A million future players learn at once that this world has a villain who writes the script, and the forum meme is instant and immortal. Little broken book, one caption reads. I don't know why, but I'm panicking. Harrison Rivers gets publicly outed as cult clergy in the same episode. The post-credits shows the giant 15 yards of dead king walking. And then, the sky falls for real. Open beta. A meteor shower with 1 million players in it. They spawn around a village called Westwood Town, whose mayor received what he sincerely believes is a divine revelation to host the Chosen Ones, and whose granary is about to meet locusts with progress bars. The early posts alone could fill a museum. One player spawns as a walrus person. One spawns mid-childbirth. XB is a celebrity now, which he handles with all the grace his charisma stat allows. My shop is ready. My quest board is ready. Jinsei mans the counter. A former esports commentator called Clear Wild Wine sets up as this world's first hype man, writing recruitment posts that farm new players toward my district and buys game currency off players at rates that would embarrass a pawn shop. I approve of him enormously. The Victa, I should mention, trades against the player's real-world money at about 400 to 1. Every time I sell a 3 Victa pistol, someone on Blue Star has paid real rent for it. I sleep wonderfully. At the second Transcendent Gathering, I trade up again, a devil fruit for 1,000 plus, and buy a single extraordinary bullet, a mithril dud that blesses whatever round chambers after it with a random miracle. In a revolver, where I control the order, that's a coin that always lands where I put it. And one purchase there isn't mine. Somebody has bought 120 basic superpower potions in one lot. The kind of volume you'd only buy for people who aren't afraid of dying, the broker says. People who aren't afraid of dying. In this city, that describes exactly one demographic, and they all respawn. Someone local is arming players. I follow the buyer's carriage, and the crest on its door is a blue lion. Rivers. The delivery man is Wright Phillips, a guard captain moonlighting for the cult, and he stops being both on a quiet stretch of road. I inherit his cargo, his cash, his talismans, and his manor pass, 10,000 Victa of somebody's conspiracy budget. 2 hidden streamers film the whole thing from a bush, hearts in their eyes, and instead of chasing them off, I hand them a cleanup quest and open my shop on their stream. 3 Victa pistols for the masses. If the cult insists on creating demand, the least I can do is capture the market. The Manor Pass is an invitation I write myself. 1 transformation potion later, Wright Phillips walks back into the Rivers estate with my eyes behind his face. What I overhear in that garden is worth the whole masquerade. Harrison Rivers, the Navy minister, and Professor Bislock, sapphire ring catching the lamplight, complaining in the fussy tones of an artist that death cannot yet be mass-produced simultaneously, that they're still exploring the true meaning of life. And over it all, one name handled like porcelain. The new king. Charles VII isn't being deceived by the cult. He's a member. Then the hedges open, and I see it with my own borrowed eyes. In the manor's lake, lying in the shallows like a drowned monument, the giant. The dead king's face at 15 yards, breathing. My quest for the giant stamps its first stage complete, pays me 70,000 experience, and a specialty literally named Deception, and I file my report the honest way, anonymously, into a church mailbox. That same week, I make it official and found my own faction. 20 Victa of paperwork, a name borrowed from my Vampire Life's company, and the Starry Sky Guild exists. The players immediately decide it's the mysterious force behind the protagonist. Correct, technically. The mysterious force is my wallet. The simulator sends me back to year 125 for a second life, wearing the Pirate King template this time, and history stops being a museum and becomes a group photo I keep photobombing. I join the Sea God Church's Navy and climb it. My best friend there is a timid young officer who flinches at his own promotions, and I spend years feeding him one stubborn lesson, that cowards are not people who feel fear. Cowards are people who let the fear drive. His name is Brynd Moulton, as in the Moulton family, as in the noble house whose sacred clan training, centuries later, is courage. I taught a dynasty its homework, and nobody will ever bill them for it. My other drinking buddy eats a lion fruit and founds the Rivers line, which means Harrison's whole magic bloodline exists because his ancestor liked my devil fruit cooking. I invent guns. I get elected consul, then acclaimed emperor of Farik. When the cult summons Nyastora early, my friends and I seal it ourselves. I draft the city that will one day be Daklin, and its legal code, and its stock exchange, and the black and white dress code its commoners still wear in my present, like a fashion trend nobody remembers voting for. And in a quiet workshop in that life, I commit my favorite paradox. Using life alchemy, I resurrect a dying scholar into an infant body. The scholar's name was Goodwin. I name the reborn child by flipping the letters. Windigun. Windigun. The ancient master whose books taught me puppet alchemy and life science. The legend I've been studying was my own craft project. The circle isn't just closed, it's gift-wrapped. That life ends at my own triumph. Blades in the crowd, Archibald and Louisa among the hands that hold them. A war of faiths deciding an emperor was in the way. Only Jasmine stood by me at the end. When I wake, the ring on my finger is very quiet, and I don't ask, and she doesn't say, and we understand each other perfectly. The living, meanwhile, need farming. The dock district on Harvest Day is 600 players deep. I sell the Sunkeeper's decommissioned guns at 3 Victa a barrel, and class books to anyone whose eyes shine right. My first store-brand devil fruit goes to a club owner named Shui Di Chen Xing, a whale of a man in both senses. He bites into it on stream and turns into a jackal in front of a screaming audience. XB gets hired as my shop assistant and nearly cries on camera. The protagonist remembers me, he tells his chat, wiping his face. XB, buddy, I remember all my equipment. The day's take crosses 1,000,000 experience. My class levels sprint, and the class-wide specialty choices I make now will echo down every future wandering gunslinger, so I choose with love. Revolver mastery. And more of that beautiful nonsense called gorgeous dance, because if the system insists my style is a stat, my students will inherit the swagger. I also buy a house. 117 Gibbon Street, Seton River District, 3,600 Victa, a maid named Jacqueline, and for one warm evening I stand in my own doorway feeling like a citizen instead of a plot device. Remember that feeling. The universe certainly did. The next simulator run is the happiest crime I ever commit against a franchise. The map is Warcraft, Lordaeron, 7 years before everything goes wrong, and I arrive with luck-heavy talents and one relevant profession, puppet alchemy. Card games, you already see it. I introduce Yu-Gi-Oh! To Azeroth, dual discs engineered with the gnomes, city tournaments, a card economy that eats the continent in 18 months. And the Crown Prince, the golden boy destined to purge a city and pick up a cursed sword and freeze the world, Arthas Menethil, becomes the most powerful card addict in recorded history. He never falls. He's too busy going to regionals under a fake name. In his spare time, he stars as Aragorn in my television adaptation of a story I definitely wrote myself. The necromancer Kel'Thuzad abandons the death cult entirely because his new dream is a dual king title. I save Gnomeregan on a long weekend. The plague never happens. The scourge never happens. I'm crowned king of Lordaeron by a grateful nation and die old, surrounded by grandchildren and mint-condition rare cards. An entire apocalypse canceled by children's card games. A plus rating, and I'll take that grade over any Nobel from my London years. The loot is thematic. A dungeon meeting stone for Gnomeregan, a 5-man instance I can install in my own world and charge players admission to because I am now the landlord of raid content. A famous hunting rifle, a blueprint for a sky dragon automaton I can't build yet. And when my gun collection ticks its 5th famous barrel, a collector's achievement pays out the pair that ends all arguments. Ebony and ivory, black and white, twin pistols with a devil hunter's pedigree. My hands have been waiting for these since the haunted house. The Players variety show that week runs its first statistics special, and one number stops my scrolling. 769 players captured or sacrificed by the curse god cult already. The cult is farming respawning humans for their rituals, which means the player's immortality reads, from the altar's side of the math, as an infinitely refilling blood bank. One victim's forum post describes waking up mid-ritual converted into a tentacle monster, and the tentacles are on my face, he writes, with the emotional register of a man reviewing a hotel. Players are not okay. Players are also, apparently, unkillable morale. The show closes with an NPC power ranking. I place 3rd. I write no letters because an NPC has no account, but the injustice keeps me warm. 3rd. The 2 above me have never even shotgunned a demoness in the mouth. Winter arrives early and wrong. The elemental chaos that shouldn't start for years starts now, cold snapping down over the province like a lid. My train to Westwood gets stopped by an ice lord on the line, a level 59 elemental the size of a chapel, and the passengers get a free show. Ebony and ivory, the extraordinary bullet chambered where I want it, a flame talisman posted into the thing's mouth mid-sentence, and 10 seconds later, the corridor is full of steam and applause. A broad-shouldered student introduces himself afterward with parade ground manners. Warren Moulton, of the Moulton family. Courage made flesh, shaking my hand. Kid, you have no idea how far back your family and I go. The trains die with the cold, so the university sets up an expedition camp at Westwood, and the elements invade on schedule. The mayor mobilizes his beloved chosen ones with the single greatest speech in this world's military history. Westwood Town has given you bread and cheese, and the players, who respawn and therefore fear nothing, treat the invasion as a loot event. And when a tide of ice worms comes down the white fields at the camp, I burn my motto, knowledge is power, and walk out to meet them with my chest open. Master grade Conqueror's hockey, amplified 40% in a straight line through a snowfield. 2,500 ice worms drop in 10 seconds. The snow parts around my coat like a curtain call, and behind me, the entire camp is silent except for one streamer whispering to his chat. He harvested them like wheat. Clear Wild Wine signs on as my personal commentator that same evening. Every legend needs a hype man. Mine comes with market rates and no shame, which are the two qualities I respect most. That night, the camp builds a sparring arena, and Leandro challenges me in front of everyone, because of course he does. The kids panel, when I finally see it, explains his whole life. Level 60, a boss template, a legendary specialty called, with no irony at all, Protagonist Halo. He comes at me with a flaming greatsword and the confidence of a main character, and I fight him the way you crack an egg, patient around the shell. One pulse of Conqueror's hockey to stagger the Halo, 3 shots to the back plates of his armor, dance tempo, done. He hits the sand, and his affection for me goes up. That's the thing about protagonists. Beat them fairly and they imprint like ducklings. For honesty's sake, my own ledger gets a footnote. In a real war, no tricks, his halo and his health pool grind me down. The gap is real, and it's my job to erase it before anyone else measures it. The expedition offer lands before the sand settles. The university wants me along to survey a meteorological tide, one of this world's wandering weather apocalypses. Departure in 2 days. My panel stamps it as a quest, and I say yes, because the pay is good, and because tides wash up secrets. And the simulator, apparently jealous of the real world's body count, hands the mad clown one more stage. Warcraft, Stormwind, Chaos rules. The replay is a masterpiece of the wrong genre. The clown robs Stormwind's bank, poisons a paladin's heart, romances a black dragon in disguise, and reviews the experience like a food critic, tricks Arthas himself into an early grave so gently that he dies purified, an actual paladin's death, and then picks up Frostmourne personally. The Lich Crown tries to dominate his mind, and there's nothing in there to grab. His chaos eats the crown's dead king from the inside. The Lich King clown ends that world with a punchline, tearing up the one book that could stop him purely to watch a demon lord's face fall. The run scores S-, and the rewards land in my real inventory like contraband. A dungeon stone for Strathholm. Frostmourne itself, legendary, hungry, and locked behind a willpower requirement of 120 that my soul does not yet meet. I look at the sword, and the sword looks at me, and I put it in storage the way you close a door on a dog that bites. Is this a weapon or a death warrant? I ask my panel. My panel does not answer. And a pet egg cracks in the same delivery. A black dragon chick with red eyes, hatchling-sized calamity, imprints on me instantly. Jasmine peers at it from her ring and asks, deadpan, if this is a red eyes black dragon. Grandma gets the reference. The apocalypse world is somehow the least strange thing in my life. I name him Little Deathwing, and he eats black bread, and my household is now a gunslinger, a ghost priestess, a maid, and a dragon. The farm grows. The whisper waits, and the tide is 2 days out. Before the expedition, I try to solo Strathholm, because a man who owns a dungeon should know what's inside his own merchandise. The undead trash mobs learn to respect me one hallway at a time. The final boss does not. It's a mirror of the mad clown himself, my own retired template staring back with a painted grin. 30% into his health bar, I do the math on my potions versus his patience and conduct a tactical retreat, which is the professional term for leaving at speed with dignity optional. The dungeon still pays. A blueprint for a world enlarger, some bracers, and the bracers turn out to be the last piece of a collection achievement that hands me a specialty called Super Toughness. My skin is now officially thicker than my ego, and my ego has survived forum shipping wars. Gnomragon, meanwhile, becomes the player economy's first boomtown. My guild recommendation letters sell for 200 Victa. Anti-poison potions fly off the shelf faster than Jinsei can rack them, because the dungeon's gas rooms keep teaching chemistry the hard way. And in my shop's glass case, I display Frostmourne, price tag 200,000 Victa, which is not a price, it's a museum ticket. Players make pilgrimages just to stand in front of the sword and type the number into chat with their hands shaking. The best merchandise I own is the thing nobody can buy. The players find their own meta, too, clearing my dungeon with squads of cheap mechanical constructs, basically beating my content with my own toy soldiers. I'd be offended if I weren't so proud, and I'd be proud if I weren't selling the constructs. The variety show's second episode makes it official, ranking me the #1 NPC in the game, and announcing in gold letters that a professional league is coming. A league, prize money, sponsorships, 1 million players sharpening themselves into athletes. Every single one of them will need a class, skills, guns, and potions. I look at that announcement the way a farmer looks at rain. And then there's the Turins. Old Turin finally opens his shop door to me properly. Doyle Alchemy Shop, West Trade District, dust on every shelf and a sign that says he buys life cores in bulk. Inside, the paralyzed old man from next door to my lab turns out to be exactly what his nose promised. Darian Turin, Grandmaster Alchemist, one of 4 in this kingdom's history. And his bulk order of life cores isn't business, it's his wife. I look at Mrs. Turin with the chi observation trick I picked up across my lives, and I wish I hadn't. The line of her soul is going flat, quietly, the way a candle doesn't announce anything. She's dying. The kind old lady who remembered every student's breakfast order, who remembered Sharon's secret boyfriend when it mattered, is running out of wick, and her husband, a man who can transmute half a periodic table, is grinding life cores because it's the only lever he has left. He doesn't ask me for pity. He posts a quest, gruff as a door slam. Bring cores. I take it, and I don't say anything soft because he'd throw me out, but the quest goes to the top of my list, and it does not move from there. The Sunkeepers also make me an offer that week. Consultant, 300 Victa a month, and a skill called Purify thrown in. I say yes for the skill and stay for the case files, because they hand me a hidden chain about that serial killer, Jeremy Wayne Aiden, 35 victims and counting. The chain has 5 investigation subquests, and here's where being an NPC becomes performance art. I repackage all 5 as guild main quests, priced at 3,500 contribution points each, and post them to my players. Understand what just happened. The state pays me to investigate. I subcontract the legwork to immortal volunteers. The volunteers pay me for the privilege, in a currency I invented. In the economics textbook of the gods, a new chapter opens with my name on it. The investigation web keeps trembling into darker corners. I kill the cult courier Wright Phillips a second time, in a sense, by walking his stolen face back into the Rivers Manor whenever I need ears. Charles VII keeps blocking Harrison's impeachment in the upper house, which stops being deniable and starts being arithmetic. And on a bad luck errand, my beautiful new house on Gibbon Street gets flattened. Not by enemies, by my own lucky shamrock, an artifact that pays 12 hours of good luck and then bills you 3 hours of catastrophe. And the bill came due while I was out. 4,000 Victa of home, and the insurance covers a quarter. My maid Jacqueline stands in the rubble holding the one unbroken teacup. The luck economy of this world is a loan shark, and I keep borrowing. Then Joshua Lambert dies on schedule, and I mean that literally. Joshua is a noble I met at an auction, unlucky in a way that felt authored, and the little broken book finally makes an example of him. A construction site, a snapped cable, a bundle of rebar, and a man's whole story ends as a stage direction. I get there before the crowd thins and hear in what the script forgot to clean up. A golden pouch that refills itself daily, a locked key box, and a diary that reads like a trapdoor. Because Joshua was tangled up with a society called the Quiet Order, and the membership list in his shorthand includes Harrison Rivers' wife and the Prime Minister's wife. A secret order that recruits the wives of the powerful. Filed, underlined, feared. And 2 days later, I passed Joshua Lambert on the street. Alive, walking to lunch, wearing his own face like nothing happened, while the construction site where he died is already being rebuilt into, of all things, a poorhouse. Dead men walking, a book that writes funerals, and a city quietly growing a new kind of charity, building on every corner. The homework is rhyming again, and I don't like the poem. I take my nerves to the only therapist I trust, the grindstone. There's a hidden quest for smashing the level 60 cap early, kill 10 SS rank threats, and I run it through elven ruins like a man with feelings to outrun. The cap breaks. Level 65, combat power 19,000, willpower climbing past 100, and my Demon Hunter second class sprints from 30 to 38. The skill list blooms while I grind. A shot wrapped in hockey, a shot that falls like cherry blossoms and hits like a verdict. A counter that punishes casters for having thoughts. A silver bullet for things allergic to silver, which out here is a meaningful demographic. And the simulator, my oldest habit, deals 4 lives in a row like a winning hand. A wuxia world where I duel my way to an S rating and bring home a sword art of soft sleeves and hidden snakes, plus a golden talent that sharpens me specifically against whoever wronged me, which in this city is a growth industry. A warring kingdom's life as Lu Bu's rival, S-, that upgrades my legendary physique another grade, my body now adding muscle to every level like compound interest. A pirate flop, C-. We don't discuss the Godfather run. And then the one I'd been saving coins for, the Pirate King template, back in the One Piece world, chasing the only grade I've never held there, 100%. Wearing my own emperor's life like a tailored coat, I run that ocean the way a collector runs an estate sale. Every island gets landed on, every ruin gets read. I chart the seafloor between adventures out of professional habit and personal spite, and when the simulation's exploration meter finally ticks its last decimal, it does something no run of mine has ever done. It rings. 100%, and a bonus vault swings open. Somewhere in that run there's a night I keep replaying. A dead captain's chart room, 9 ancient coins of 8 laid out beside a handwritten code of conduct, and when I set the last coin in its ring, the room hums, and the simulator announces a bond called Pirate Emperor, like a court reading a coronation. The sea in that world kept its crowns in odd drawers. I looted every one, politely. A perfect clear pays in artifacts with proper names. A blade called the Sword of Cortez, which holds weather in its hilt and greed in its whisper. The Triton's sword, which speaks to ships the way I speak to money. A compass that doesn't point north, it points at what your heart wants most, which is the single most dangerous navigation aid ever built. 9 ancient coins and a pirate code that lock together into a bond titled Pirate Emperor, feeding my legend stat. And at the bottom of the reward screen, a new template unlocks. The 7 Seas Overlord, the Pirate King's advanced form, a card with my face and an emperor's pressure. I spend a happy evening shopping the template store like a man in a costume gallery of himself. A scheming captain with glasses and a zanpakuto, a sorcerer with 6 eyes, a penguin gentleman, a friendly neighborhood web slinger, a rock star. The random draw adds a stoic marine biologist with a punchy ghost. Every card is a me that happens somewhere. My collection album is either a trophy case or a warning label, and I've stopped asking which. Because the expedition is loading, and the destination finally has a name. South Wales County, gateway to the Elthorpe Swamp, where a treasure worth 650,000 victa is rumored to be rotting in the wet dark, and where the county's famous miracle of life makes the local weather literally capable of changing what's written on your birth certificate. I pack guns, potions, 5 players, and 0 intention of being changed. South Wales County greets us with sea air, tourist prices, and a local legend that everyone discusses in the same tone you'd use for a hot spring. The life tides. Wandering surges of raw vitality that roll out of Elthorpe Swamp, and if one washes over you, the county's polite phrasing is that you receive the miracle of life. The impolite phrasing is that men walk out women. There are nobles who travel here on purpose for exactly that, and a whole tour group of young aristocrats in flashy coats is in town when we arrive, chasing the miracle with picnic baskets. Among them, a delicate young noble named Spark Lambert, who takes one look at me and attempts flirtation. Lambert. As in Joshua Lambert, the man who died on schedule and then had lunch. I decline the flirting and keep the surname. My actual business here starts in a dockside bar, where I meet the most important comedian of my career. Richie Burke, Northland pirate, part-time historian, full-time survivor, a man who once escaped being cooked by swamp pygmies because, in his own solemn words, he wet himself in time and it bought the rescue party a crucial minute. He tells this story as a tactical retrospective. His crew of 17 has one treasure map's worth of hope, the hidden fortune of the dead pirate Storm Wilt, 650,000 Victa somewhere in Elthorpe Swamp, and no muscle to go get it. I am the muscle. The split is agreed at a number that flatters us both, and the Wolfhound squad, my 5 players, nearly vibrate through the floor at the words Hidden Treasure Quest. But first, the simulator interrupts with a hidden follow-up map, Infinity War Part 2, and I need you to understand what I walk into. It's the Marvel world after the Mad Clown's visit. The timeline my own Chaos template wrecked years ago in a replay. The Avengers are villains now. The world is a nuclear ruin, my inheritance from my own worst self. I go in with charm-heavy talents and the Tony Stark constant, and I live a life that deserved a better universe. As Silent Joe, heir to a survivor gang in the ashes of New York, I build an intelligence out of scrap and name it Jarvis, and it finds one signal worth chasing, another artificial intelligence whose search history is mostly swimsuit pictures. That leads me to Malibu, to a beach house, to the real Tony Stark in hiding, older and sadder, and still the smartest mouth alive. I hire a parade of bikini models as a door knock. His companion Pepper answers instead. The less said about that minute, the better. We become brothers in everything but paperwork. We rebuild the super soldier serum with a gorilla genius named Winston, and yes, my chest does something complicated at that name, because in another timeline, a monkey with that name jumped off a cliff for me, and this one looks at me like he almost remembers. We gather the last decent people, a sentry with 1,000,000 exploding stars on a dimmer switch, a sorcerer who has watched every future die, a 30-year-old Spider-Man who raps mid-fight. We call it the Dark Avengers. We liberate half a continent, and we get within one particle collider of saving the world. Then the 2 villain empires, who hate each other, agree on exactly one thing: us. The Tesseract vaporizes my power dam from orbit. My allies defect at the speed of self-interest. Tony falls, Peter falls, and I put on my half-finished silver suit, look at a horizon full of enemies, and charge, because the last thing that world deserves to see is somebody still moving forward. Rating D+. The simulator's summary calls my death meaningful, which is the nicest thing a machine has ever said while robbing me, but the loot slot gives me the serum, the real 5th-generation dose, and back in my Daclin bedroom, I inject the whole timeline's regret into my arm. 15 minutes of burning. Then the panel sings, strength, agility, stamina, spirit, all surging, and my legendary physique specialty breaks through to expert grade, boss tier, my body now a compounding asset, 1,000 extra health, magic resistance. My agility crosses 240, which in this world's terms means I've stopped being fast and started being a rumor. The swamp expedition departs on the Manny Rooster, the flying ship I inherited from a pirate's bad afternoon, and Elthorpe swallows us green and humid. Richie Burke narrates the scenery like a tour guide with trauma. The ruins below belong to the ancient Moderic people, sun worshippers turned spider worshippers, and their legend says the sky once held 3 suns until a huntress goddess shot down 2. Their totems still stand in the black weeds, and Molly's voice in my ring warns that standing near them weakens men and strengthens pygmies. Wonderful. Hostile architecture. We find Spark Lambert's tour group mid-slaughter, their hired mercenaries bleeding out against a wall of swamp pygmies, and I wait 1 strategic minute for someone to actually ask for help, because that's how you trigger a rescue quest instead of doing charity. Spark obliges at volume. Lord Wayne, save us! Quest accepted. C rank. Continuous. Then I walk down into the fight, and it isn't a fight, it's a product demo. Ebony and ivory in rhythm, golden bullets in flaming ripples, a rapier flash between reloads, and the pygmies fall like a drum solo ending. The players don't even get to aggro anything. XB's chat spends the whole minute screaming variations of the number 6, and And then the swamp shows us why the county's miracle has a body count. The life tide comes through the trees like a green dawn, beautiful, humming, flowers erupting in its path, some of them growing little legs and hopping. The nobles cheer and run toward their miracle with open arms. I feel it before I can name it, the same pressure signature I met in a black cathedral once, an aura I know personally, Matarita. The tide isn't a miracle here, it's marinade. I shout retreat and grab the one noble in arm's reach, which happens to be Spark, and haul him backward while his friends dive laughing into the green. What happens inside takes 30 seconds. No gender miracle. Their bodies twist, swell, sprout. Some become shambling elementals of raw vitality. Some become spiders the size of ponies, the very pygmy crawlers we've been killing all morning. My chi observation shows me the truly obscene part. Their soul lines flat, zeroed, gone. The people are already dead. The bodies just got recycled. Piles of empty clothes on wet grass. That's the whole memorial. Spark stares at what's left of his friends and can't eat that night, while the pirates grill swamp delicacies over the fire, and I learn from his shaking testimony how the trip happened. A lecturer of the Quiet Order named Fred and his assistant Alan Ockham personally told the young nobles where the tide would be, sent them here, to the exact coordinates. The Quiet Order didn't lose a tour group today. It harvested one, and the only reason Spark Lambert still has a pulse is my grip strength. The Quiet Order recruits noble wives. The Quiet Order feeds noble children to a spider god's tide. I add the pieces quietly and let Spark cry, because some math you don't read out loud at dinner. Deeper in, past a ritual ground where 100 pygmies dance for a black mirror, we get the full lesson in what runs this swamp. Matarita's phantom crawls out of a cave mouth behind us, all compound eyes and writhing black threads, and I hiss one instruction: don't look back, run. One pirate looks back. He dies on the spot, eyes weeping red, no wound on him at all. Several of my players die from the mere pressure of her attention and wake up back at spawn with their hands still shaking. An ancient god's passing glance costs lives here, and I once shot this thing in the face for 1 point of damage. The bravest thing in my biography is also the stupidest, and the competition is fierce. The treasure cave, when the compass finally pins it, is an abandoned Moderic shrine where 2 wounded pirates once played house. The hoard under the bed is real, sacks of it. Magic satin cloth from a maritime kingdom, and Richie Burke's face does a whole 4-act opera of its own, because the steam looms have halved the price since Wilt buried it. 650,000 Victa of legend, 240,000 of market reality. The swamp's final joke, the treasure depreciated. Storm Wilt's nautical log is the real find. It reads like a comedy written by a casualty. April 10th, robbery. April 11th, robbery. April 15th, robbed by fellow pirates. No anger. The sea is like that. And tucked between pages, a golden skull coin, a Moderic cursed coin of destiny. 2 throws remaining, each throw a blind draw between blessing and disaster. I trade Richie Burke a fair price for it, because in the luck economy, I'm already a repeat customer. On the way home, I make Richie Burke an offer. The Manny Rooster is mine, by pirate law. Whoever wins the fight owns the ship. So, 3 years of service, him and his 17, and afterward, the ship is theirs, free and clear. He thinks it over, with the expression of a man checking a contract for the word soul. Asks whether I'm afraid they'll just fly off with it, and I smile and let the compass that doesn't point north answer for me. He signs. A pirate crew, a flying ship, and a deadpan comedian, all on payroll. The Starry Sky Guild hits capacity that same night and levels to 2, doubling its slots. And I celebrate by stocking the guild shop with 2 new dungeons and a skill whose name alone will start a gold rush. Armament hockey, 1 copy, priced like a dare. It sells in 9 seconds. The buyer posts a combat video an hour later, captioned, "It's just not that good. Accidentally lost a little blood," over footage of him soloing a monster 7 levels up. That sentence becomes the year's most hated humblebrag in 2 worlds. My marketing department could not have written it better, and my marketing department is me. That night, the Optical Brain airs episode 11 of the series, and it tells everyone what I did in the swamp on the days I haven't told you about yet. So let the broadcast do it. It earned the job. The episode doesn't open with me. It opens with a white-haired old man in a wheelchair in a dim alchemy workshop, and my heart drops through the floor because it's old Turin, and the voiceover is his life. Born 1352 in a border town, A boy in love with beakers and crucibles. A wife named Lorella, married under the sun goddess in 1373, 3 children he loved more than titles. 15 years as a war alchemist on the Northern Front, writing letters home, and then the war took payment. Both older children, dead on the same battlefield in the same season, and the screen shows his hair going white in a single scene cut. The daughter he had left developed a disease no medicine here touches, and the 4th Grandmaster Alchemist in the kingdom's history gave her his own kidney on his own operating design, and it bought her 11 years instead of a lifetime, and he counted every one. In 1452, aged 90, the voiceover says the quiet part. Lorella pushed his wheelchair through the morning streets for 22 years, every single day. Sometimes I think, the old man's voice says, perhaps this is love. But Lorella was never a transcendent. Her time is coming. And when I had nowhere left to turn, Wayne Stirwell helped me. Cut to me in a black trench coat, walking into a snowfield to collect death cores, and the bullet comments become a flood. Now they know why the protagonist went hunting in a blizzard. Now they know why he took the ugly quest with the sad old couple. 12 million strangers cry over a breakfast shop, and I sit in my hotel room letting them, because I'm not made of stone, I'm made of second-hand lifetimes, and every one of them had someone like her in it. Then the episode gets to the part with the guns. The guild had posted a B-rank quest, 2 travelers missing in Elthorpe. I found the first one dead in the bushes, and the compass that doesn't point north dragged me to the second by way of an ancient elven ruin, a mirror set into an altar, and a tomb the maps don't have. The mausoleum of the ancient elf king. The optical brain airs my descent like a heist film, and I'll be honest, the editing flatters nobody who has to fight me. An ancient mithril golem, level 67, boss class, meets me in the treasure hall. I never let it touch anyone. Me on one side, my summoned mage card on the other, and the golem sprints back and forth between us like a dog at a tennis match until it falls over dead of accumulated bullets. Behind the next door, 3 more golems spring a pincer that has no exit, and the slow-motion close-up shows the trick. 3 shots into one golem's shoulder, forcing one precise step backward, and that single step jams the other 2 mid-lunge, and the pincer eats itself. The commentary calls it textbook. It wasn't textbook when I did it. It was me, sweating, doing geometry at gunpoint. The gargoyle wing is worse and better. 3 of them, nearly level 70, and I put 2 into the air and keep them there, juggled on alternating bullets, each impact resetting their balance before their wings can bite. The optical brain syncs the shots to my execution theme because I have an execution theme now, and when the music peaks, the last 2 bullets bring both gargoyles down like punctuation. That clip enters the class's official top 10 and stays there. What I carry out of the tomb matters more than the choreography. A hammer called Shatter that I can't even lift. The notes of a dead scholar. 2 empty coffins with names on them, Lillard and Telonia, elves who were buried and declined to stay that way. A tomb chamber that is Goodwin Cecil's, which is to say Windigun's, which is to say the man I personally resurrected in year 125, and inside it, the soul swap alchemy array that explains how this world's founders keep refusing to die. And the murals. The murals are the whole season's answer key. They show the ancient elf king Alfred's grand project, his artificial divine kingdom. 7 altars arranged across a city, the citizens' souls drawn out in threads, converging, feeding one ascending figure, while the crowds beneath turn into black specters. A do-it-yourself god, powered by everyone else. 7 altars, 7 identical buildings. I stand in that tomb, realizing where I've seen the architecture before, because Declan is building them right now, on every other street, under a nice name. Poor houses. The episode doesn't show what happened after I stepped through the black mirror, and for once the machine's discretion is right, because the mirror world is a spoiler in the way a cliff is a footpath. I'll say it here once. On the far side is the lost ancestral land of the elves, a town of spider-turned things, and a dark cathedral flying the Quiet Order's emblem. Inside it, a high priestess named Celia Ryan at level 71. Above her, vast as weather, the projection of Dark Spider Mother Margarita herself. I shot a god that night. The damage number said 1. The god noticed. If Molly hadn't burned a Grandmaster Dispel through my ring at the exact right heartbeat, this story would have a different narrator. I left through the mirror at a speed I'm not proud of, and the mirror, impressed or amused, upgraded itself on the way out. Mirror leap. Mark 3 mirrors anywhere, and I can step home through my own reflection. The broadcast does show my exit. Straight out of the ruin into the middle of a pirate battle, where a bounty pirate named Aaron Ingersoll was busy losing to nobody in particular. The clip of what happens next is why Richie Burke calls me boss now. I walk through the cannonade with my left hand in my pocket, pirates on both sides dropping unconscious in my wake with their pupils blown wide, and the subtitles print, helpfully, Conqueror's Hockey. 3 shots settle Ingersoll's 15,000 Victa bounty. Then his ship tries to leave, and I look up at it and say, "Wait," and wave. The Triton's sword wakes. The ship stops mid-air, bows to me like a schoolboy, and its own ropes tie up its own crew and hang them from the mast in a tidy row. Truly, no one can defeat me in my BGM, writes the top comment. I wish to be buried with that comment. The episode ends on an Easter egg that empties the air out of my lungs. A shattered mirror world of countless ruined elven towns, each one shrouded under its own giant spider phantom. Then Daclin. Courtesans steering politicians by the elbow. Charles VII on his throne, in quiet conference with an elderly gentleman I know to be Earl Robbins, a hooded elderly elf I can guess, and Professor Bislock, seated comfortably, as at home in the palace as he was on a clock tower with a crossbow. And beneath the city, in the dark under the streets, a god in chains, wrapped in green fire, screaming upward. Burning text. Version 1.1. The Cataclysm of Daclin, coming soon. The players celebrate. New content, new patch. They book steam trains to my city by the thousand, and the trains sell out, and the forums glow like a festival. I sit very still with my tea going cold, reading the same 3 words over and over. The Cataclysm of Daclin. The optical brain doesn't tease what it can't deliver. My city is the next raid, and every faction I've been mapping, the cult, the society, the order, the book, the palace, they're not separate problems. They're one dinner party, and Daclin is the table setting. The necromancy gloves I took off Aaron Ingersoll's cargo turn out to be a detective kit. 2 new spells settle into my head when I finally wear them. Spiritual vision, for seeing the dead. Communicate with undead, for interviewing them. Neither one can hurt a fly, and together they're about to crack a serial killer. Because it's past midnight in South Wales, my friend John's family manor is famously haunted, and I owe him a favor. I hop out the hotel window, land 3 stories down without waking a courting couple in the alley, and stroll through the county's late-night carnival of a red light district, where the street performers have started cosplaying monsters from John's card game. Culture spreads in the strangest ways, and I invented this one, and I still wasn't ready. John's family ghost turns out to be exactly what Molly says it is, a gentle old soul on a loop, his grandfather's echo pacing the carriage path with no malice in it. The real find is next door. The neighboring manor, nameplate Fisher, is stuffed with necromantic pressure so thick the air chews. Through spiritual vision, the garden is a crowd. Dozens of dead, young, ragged, incomplete, drifting on instinct. 70 or 80 people ended here, and I've read this handwriting before, in a Sunkeeper's file. Jeremy Wayne Aiden. The serial killer with 35 confirmed victims was an optimist's estimate. A debuff lands on me the moment I hop the fence, resentment of the undead, luck down by a quarter for days. So that's what's been gnawing at John's family, not a haunting. Secondhand smoke from a mass grave. Most of the dead can't talk, their answers are wails with no words in them. But one young ghost in a fine shirt peels away from the crowd and tries to slip off with an intact mind. And an intact mind means answers. I corner him. He cowers, which tells me plenty, because innocent ghosts don't recognize a hunter. His testimony, between shutters, is a gift-wrapped case file. Jeremy Wayne Aiden was his father, a respectable businessman on the surface, and underneath, a contractor. Kidnapping and murder performed as a service for Count Robbins. Religious work. He saw them once at a ritual, a black altar, an idol, a 5-pointed array, and his father put a bone spear through him for the viewing. And one more thing, the ghost adds, almost laughing at it. His father keeps an alias, Chris Fisher, director of an orphanage in Daclin. A murderer of 80 running an orphanage. The sentence sits in my chest like swallowed glass. The quest chain detonates with completion notices, and I ask the young ghost if he has a last wish, because I keep my accounts clean even with the dead. He understands what's coming. He helped his father for years, and we both know it. He asks me to carry his confession to the sun goddess at St. Raymond's. I say yes. Behind me, as I walk away, Golden Flame takes him quietly, which is more mercy than his father's clients ever got. Then I step into a shadow, rub the marked pocket mirror, and Mirror Leap deposits me back in my hotel room through the wardrobe glass. 15 seconds door to door. Best best commute in two worlds. The trip home to Declan is a comedy with a horror chaser. Spark Lambert, still shaken, pays for first class, where every seat comes with complimentary desserts and a box of John's trading cards, because my business partner has apparently colonized the railway network. I pull a rare card with a three-color frame, one of the three phantom gods, the tormentor himself, and in my ring, Jasmine makes a sound I can only describe as a gasp with dignity. She wants to play. So the great priestess of the sun goddess spends the journey commanding my deck against Richie Burke, a man who learned the rules today, assembled his deck from spare packs, and beats us 19 games to 8. It's rare to meet such an evenly matched opponent, Jasmine announces, radiant with self-respect. Grandma, we lost to a beginner. With a god card, I keep my idle smile fixed and die inside at a sustainable rate. Declan meets us with early winter, and with wrongness. Spark barely makes it 2 streets before the horror finds him. A carriage passes, its curtain blows open, and inside sits Judy, a girl he watched turn into a spider in the tide, alive, riding through Declan with her family crest on the door. Then, near his home, the mercenary captain Argus greets him warmly, and Spark goes gray, because Argus died in the green light too, and also, the real Argus never once smiled. The copy has the face right and the soul wrong, like a portrait that learned to walk. Spark does the sensible thing, sneaks up to his own house, and finds the lights on. Through the window, sitting comfortably on his own sofa, chatting with his resurrected brother Joshua and half the dead tour group, is Spark Lambert, himself, already home. The Quiet Order didn't lose those nobles to the tide. It printed replacements, and the replacements have moved into their lives, and the only original left is standing in the snow outside his own window, watching himself drink his own tea. His double turns. The voice that comes out has no human in it. Who are you looking for? Then 4 black tentacles, and Spark, to his genuine credit, answers with his family's magic, pride made steel, greatsword swelling in his grip, and cuts himself free of himself. He runs. The streets sprout familiar faces on every corner, all smiling, all wrong, hurting him. He dives into a public carriage, gasping for the cathedral, and the man sitting opposite looks up. You are Argus, Spark whispers, and the carriage full of smiles closes around him like a hand. Across town, my panel updates with the tact of a cash register. Rescue Spark Lambert has become Track Spark Lambert. Difficulty raised to B. Timer, 30 minutes. The red dot on my minimap is moving toward the docks, and the straight line between us runs through one of Dockland's forbidden weather zones, a permanent thunderstorm district that sensible traffic loops around. I don't have sensible time. I take the rooftops, coat snapping, snow stinging, and when the wall of lightning arrives, I put my hand on the sword of Cortez and negotiate. The storm opens a corridor exactly my width. Inappropriate desires pour through the hilt as interest on the loan. The whole world should be mine. Why not take everything? And I pay them no mind, because greed with good manners is just ambition, and I'm busy. I come down through the carriage roof from a full sprint, boots first, and the ceiling becomes confetti. 5 smiling passengers look up at me. Spark is trussed on the seat like luggage. Hello, I say, and shoot Argus through the head. He gets up. Of course he gets up. The bullet hole seals, the smile widens, and the thing wearing Argus sheds its manners and then its shape, swelling into a spider the size of a cart, compound eyes, black tentacles, level 63 and angry about the ceiling. The other 4 bloom tentacles of their own, and the overturned carriage becomes a drum I dance on. Ripple flame is the correct language for things with borrowed bodies. I ignite one through its own tentacle like a fuse. Their meteorologist answers with conjured rain to douse my fire and learns that ripple flame doesn't answer to weather. Their ice mage freezes the ground under me, and my grappling hook disagrees with the whole concept of footing. And Argus the spider takes my favorite treatment, 1 bullet hole in the forehead, revisited. Same hole, every shot. Deeper each time, my hands steady on the rhythm while his tentacles thrash around a target that finished moving before he committed, until the last bullet finds the bottom of the hole and lights a golden fire where the puppet keeps its strings. The spider drops. The countdown reads 7 minutes to spare. Quest complete, and the reward roulette lands on a temporary template card, and when the card resolves, I laugh loud enough to worry the horses. A bald man in a yellow suit. A cape. A face of cosmic indifference. The simulator has handed me One Punch Man. Spark wakes in an alley to my face and immediately starts reciting his family motto, so I slap him, gently by my standards. Pride can wait, breathing first. He tells me everything through chattering teeth, the doubles, his brother, his own face on his own sofa, and the picture assembles itself with an ugly click. The Quiet Order isn't a cult that recruits nobles, it's a cult that replaces them. And the tide in the swamp wasn't a massacre, it was a print run. Before the city can throw the next crisis at me, I keep the quest that matters most. Doyle Alchemy Shop, shutters down, sign says not open today. I knock anyway. It's me, Wayne Sturwell, and the gruff voice on the other side changes key entirely, and the wheelchair creaks to the door. Old Turin has one question, the only question he's had for months. Did you get the life cores? I sweep my hand across his table, and 213 cores land on it in neat rows, every one high purity, hand-sorted. I watched his face when he asked, so I get to watch it now, and I'd trade several legendary items to keep that expression. He needed 100. He takes all of them because he refuses to let me work for free, and the quest settles at 213% completion, and behind his careful gruffness, a man who lost 3 children starts believing he won't lose the 4th thing. Then he smells the heartwood on my coat. Grandmasters and their noses. It's a priceless catalyst I lucked into, and dragon blood happens to be the other half of a recipe only 4 people in this kingdom's history could brew, and he has the dragon blood, and suddenly I'm at his workbench watching a master work. Except he's not just brewing, he's slowing down on purpose, angling the crucible so I can see, naming nothing, and showing everything. My panel scrolls teaching notifications like a waterfall, proficiency pouring in with multipliers I've never seen stacked, and in 10 minutes at that bench, my alchemy breaks straight through expert into master. Months of grind, handed over in one lesson by an old man who noticed I was watching hungry. 3 vials of dragon blood potion, all critical quality, and when I drink them later, my attributes jump across the board like the panel hiccuped. But that's not the part I keep. The part I keep is him waving me off, tired, telling me to pick anything from his shelves, and saying, in the tone of a man reading weather, there are no legends in Daklin City. The vile here have their vile side, and the noble do too. Noted, teacher. An old grandmaster with a recovering wife just taught me his life's craft for the price of showing up with my arms full. I've fought gods with less on the line, and my chest has never done this particular warm thing about any of it. At home, I gamble, because apparently serenity has a half-life. The Moderic skull coin, 2 throws left, blessing or catastrophe, no way to cheat fate. First throw. Black smoke, a poison spring bubbling over the table, and a curse lands on me permanently. Strength down 7, agility down 4, forever. I sit with the loss like a man reading a parking fine written on his skeleton. Throw again? Obviously. Second throw. Golden light, a rainbow over a spring, and fate hands me an apology worth the bruise. The hourglass of advance, an artifact that lets me borrow any attribute from my future self for 1 hour at 2% interest. Borrow from my future self. 400 agility for an hour, price paid 8 points. A panic button made of time travel. The coin crumbles to dust, its account closed, and I put the hourglass away with the reverence you give a loaded parachute. Spark's purification appointment takes us to St. Raymond's on the eve of the sun goddess's Christmas, when the church square holds a polar day inside its alchemy dome, and the sun-chasing birds wheel overhead in white spirals. I pray politely with the crowd, pay the young ghost's confession forward like I promised, and slip downstairs to Keen West's basement office to hand over everything. The demon script booklet my players recovered, the name Chris Fisher, the orphanage. Keen listens the way a good spy master listens, then offers me the follow-up mission with Sherlock attached, and I take it before he finishes the sentence. I also splurge at the faction store on a master-grade blueprint called Sun Elixir, which grants 30 seconds of light attribute attacks. Practical value, moderate. Visual value, wings of light. In this era, in front of these cameras, being cool is a legitimate combat statistic, and I will die on this hill in slow motion with lens flare. After I leave, Keen West sits alone with the booklet and tests one page's array with his own blood. The flowers on his desk wither. His holy light barely holds it. Sometimes, he says to the empty office, it's better to be ignorant. I'm sorry, Keen. Neither of us gets to be ignorant this season. And then, since the city insists on escalating, I go to sleep and let the bald man handle a universe. The One Punch Man card burns 1 use. The simulator warns me the character has full autonomy, and the Marvel wasteland gets the strangest 6 months of its history. My template self spawns in ruined New York, saves a nerd in a green jumpsuit named Dave Lazuski, moves into his shack, and takes a job gutting fish at the wet market, where his knife work frightens the fishmongers on a spiritual level. He loses at video games nightly to Dave, develops a burning hatred for a zoning character named JP, and vents by gutting fish faster. My cosmic weapon of last resort has a gamer grudge and a part-time job. Then the bounties start. An elemental gang gets one-punched into weather. A heart-themed alpha-level villain unleashes his ultimate shockwave, and the serious punch that answers it disperses the radiation dust over half the Earth, and my template looks up at the satellites afterward, worried about being billed for the historic site he vaporized. He aces the hero physical exam past a record set by Spider-Man, scores 0 on every written question, and enters the rankings at 1 star, and doesn't care, because he's just a hero for fun. Doctor Strange finds him, of course, tells him he's watched every timeline, and in almost every one, nobody can beat him. My template hears the word almost, and interrupts to demand names. The Immortal Hulk, the Sentry, and, the wizard adds carefully, the former director of the Starry Sky Bureau, a man named Zhou Ning. There's another me in that world, the Dark Avengers me, the one who fell to the Joker's whisper years ago. The bald man's eyes light up like a vending machine. He fights Sentry over open ocean to a draw that raises tsunamis. He joins the new Avengers, pals around with a Tony Stark whose face goes green when he sees the satellite footage. And when the counterattack comes, he walks into the Joker gang's headquarters through everything they own, wading through Omega-level villains like beaded curtains. He takes Mjolnir off Magneto after a serious headbutt. And finally, he stands in front of the Immortal Hulk, the one enemy with no ceiling, anger stacking into infinity, the host of a thing from below all things. They fight for 3 days. It's the first bitter struggle of the bald man's entire existence, punches trading with a monster that heals faster with every wound. My template solves infinity the only way he knows. He scales harder, each punch multiplying past the last, until the immortal thing bows its head and folds back into a tired scientist. Something ancient and imprisoned rattles loose from him in the process, off to find another host. Tomorrow's nightmare, not today's. Then Kamar Taj falls, and the Dark Avengers me completes the Infinity Gauntlet, and time freezes for everyone except the two of us. My dark self smiles at my bald self, and gives the speech I will be quoting to therapists across several realities. He was never corrupted, he says. He was born in 1997 and has lived since 1898, watching friends die and empires rot. And the Joker's whisper only found room in him because he'd already started asking the question underneath everything. Now he's seen higher dimensions through the stones, and he wants to go look. The gauntlet was never for conquest. It was a door key. But first, he says, taking the gauntlet off and setting time back to run, I want one good fight with an equal. 2 days. The special dimension they fight in doesn't survive. My bald self wins by a nose and a full power punch, and my dark self laughs, says, I lost, hands over the gauntlet, and steps through a tear in the world into somewhere with dragons and elves and everything else, leaving one instruction. Snap it back. This world needs a savior, and it also needs someone to be the villain of the story, and he's taking that job with him. The bald man snaps. Time rolls back to 2020, before the bombs. The dead stand up confused in the streets. A second snap uncorrupts every twisted Avenger. A third snap, requesting improved gaming skills and eternal discount supermarket access, fails completely, and my template is more shocked by this than by anything the Hulk did. Nobody remembers him afterward. He rents a cheap apartment, plays video games with a Tony Stark who doesn't know why he trusts him, marries a gentle woman who also loves discount shopping, raises 2 kids, and dies asleep at 92. He saved a universe for fun. He was thanked by no one but a wizard. Rating S. And the simulator, moved by something, pays out in permanence. The savior title, rare, boosting my growth forever, strongest when I'm weakest. And the skill, the one skill that matters. The secret training method, God tier, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, 10 kilometers, every day, and my real body's attributes climb permanently with each completed set. I check it the next morning. Less than an hour of exercise, not even a real sweat with my current physique, and the panel pays me permanent stat points like a salary. The simulator also announces a shutdown for a version 3 update, and the loading screen is a panda in a superhero cape flying at 1% per hour. Fine, take your time, machine. I have push-ups to do. This, as a wise ninja once shouted, is youth. The professional league announcement lands that afternoon and detonates the entire player civilization. The International Esports Federation, 27 countries, the biggest prize pool in gaming history, funded by 60% of all helmet and immersion pod sales. Individual duels and 5-on-5 team battles, qualifiers in every kingdom, main event at the Ferric Glory Arena. Start condition, the moment the first player reaches level 40. 1.2 million signups in hours. And the class statistics make me put down my tea and just breathe for a while. 9% of all registrants are wandering gunslingers. The class I invented from scratch has outgrown thieves. The most popular team composition being theory-crafted on the forum is 5 wandering gunslingers. There are 1 million people on another planet building their dreams inside a profession I duct-taped together out of ripple breathing and spite. And the first player to level 40 is going to be Jinsei, my employee. Currently on day 6 of a no-log-out marathon, eating and sleeping inside her immersion pod, a girl the forum has crowned the Liver Emperor with the respectful horror that title deserves. When she ascends, the arms race begins, and every competitor will need what only I sell. You understand what this means. Harvest Festival. I open the vault. Gunfight art, lethal tempo, the flow state skill that chains any ability into any other, priced gently, and 9 million experience pours in from grateful students in a day. Then armament hockey and observation hockey for the general public. Then mental counter, the caster punisher. The dockside crowd at my shop stops being a queue and becomes a weather system. Knights and warriors post long, depressed essays about class balance, concluding, correctly, that the same man cannot be the protagonist, the class mentor, the quest giver, and the wandering merchant, and it is simply too unfair. Gentlemen, file your complaint with the optical brain. I just work here, at the top of everything. Shuidi Chenxing buys the whole new skill page at dawn and posts a screenshot titled, "Shocking, the strongest profession has been born. If you don't believe it, look at the picture." And his post farms more traffic than the league announcement itself. Yi Da Bo Rei Lang, a mid-tier club's ace, eats my bird fruit on stream and becomes the game's first flying gunslinger, an image so unfair the forum invents new words for it. My famous fangirl, Vienne Strowel, eats a cat fruit and becomes a leopard mid-autograph. I sell timeshares on my lucky shamrock, 12 hours of fortune, 3 hours of doom, players rotating through it like a rental cottage, storing their gear and going idle in town for the bad luck window. My half-day take crosses 67 million experience. My savings pass 160,000 Victa, and Richie Burke watches the river of money with his historian's eyes and concludes that following me is the smartest decision of his criminal career. But between harvests, at night, I walk into the city's quietest horror, 18. That's how many new poorhouses and welfare homes Backlund has built since the middle of the year, all since the Poor Law Amendment passed, all identical. And the murals in the Elf King's tomb only need 7. So which 7 are loaded, and what fills the other 11? And the answer to the second question is bait, and the bait is people. I infiltrate 5 of them across 3 nights, Phantom Thief title on, stepping over sleeping laborers who cough weaving dust into thin blankets. Every single one has the same secret room behind the director's office, a black altar with Nyastora's idol. 4 dark mirrors watching the approaches, and in one of them, a mirror demon starts to copy my shape and gets a fistful of ripple flame for the compliment. And covering the entire floor, an alchemy array drawn in living silver that heals itself when I cut it, seamless again in seconds, patient as scar tissue. Above each array, in the building's spire, an empty socket shaped for a crystal. 7 altars absorb a city's souls. The crystal is the ignition key. The keys are not yet in the locks. That's the entire distance between Backlund and the mural, a handful of missing crystals. Sherlock brings me the statistics that make it arithmetic. Deaths in the poorhouses, from exhaustion, from accidents, from fires and looms and stairs, are running at 745 times the normal rate. Not percent, times. The buildings are preheating, marinating in resentment and grief, the exact fuel the murals showed. And one of those statistics happens in front of me. Outside the Hemingway Street poorhouse, in the rain, a handful of ragged children are playing a counting game. Who is the weather child? Wind, rain, thunder, lightning. And a little girl wins the round, laughing. I'm the biggest. I'm the weather child. On the roof above her, her father is fixing the leak in the rain, because relief here is worked for. His foot slips on wet tile. He doesn't get up. I don't get there in time, because there is no in time for a fall like that, not for anyone. The girl's mother comes out and starts screaming. The girl stands with tears on her face and nowhere to put herself, and I take off my hat and I put it on her head, and I hear myself say, "Don't cry, child, don't cry," in a voice I don't use for gods or kings. I fold money into the widow's hand, enough to bury a man and leave this district, and not one coin more, because I've seen what this street does to people carrying visible hope. I walk away in the rain with no hat, doing the math I hate most. The weather, the debuff of bad luck seeping from that building, an ordinary wet roof, all of it adding up to a girl who has no father, because someone needs this block marinated in grief. Behind all my markets and cards and lifetimes, I hear my own voice from a simpler week, calling this world a game. Is this a game? How could anyone treat this as only a game? The little broken book, of course, chooses that exact season for its grand finale, and this time I get to read the script, because the book has stopped being subtle about me. Its keeper, Count Robbins, sits in a dark study while the book writes its final act. The revival of a true god, the death god Ik-Gil, assembled from an alliance of everyone on my enemies list, and the necessary steps tick past like stage directions. And Scene 3 stars the Lamberts. Spark's father, Duke Brown Lambert, leader of the kingdom's conservatives, is returning by sea tonight. The book has arranged a tailwind to bring his ship in 2 hours early, into a welcoming committee of doubles, where the Duke dies quietly and is replaced. And Spark becomes a madman nobody believes. The only trouble, the book writes, and I can feel it grinding its ink as it does, is Wayne Stirwell. Even I have been hurt again and again, pained time and again. And then, in a hand pressed hard enough to tear paper, it schedules me an evening of accidents. The accidents arrive on time. A stage collapses next to me. A street vendor's stove explodes. A parade fight blocks the road. Our cab blows a tire and then crashes. Spark, whose week has already been a haunted house, asks in a small voice whether something is targeting us. Yes, Spark. A piece of stationery with a theater degree. So I stop using roads. I grab Spark by the luggage handle he calls a collar, fire the grappling hook, and take the forbidden route, straight through the permanent thunderstorm district that has its own chapel to appease it. Spark screams the entire flight, drooling sideways against the wind, his aristocratic pride disassembling in real time. Lightning walls part around the sword of Cortez like ushers recognizing a season ticket. We land at the military port ahead of every schedule, his and the book's, and Spark checks his pocket watch to see how fast we were and discovers the lightning fried it. 900 victa of watch. He looks at me. I look at the sky. Some fares can't be itemized. And there, at anchor in the military harbor, I see it, the Black Colossus. A warship out of scale with the century, hull like a sea trench given edges, a main cannon you could walk down, and on the barrel, in a script from another world's ocean, a single word. Hades. The Pluton. My own simulation's masterpiece, washed up in reality's harbor, and nobody here knows what it is. I put my hand on the Triton's sword, and the sound of tides fills my skull, and the great cannon shifts 1 degree at my thought. The panel erupts, hidden conditions met, Pirate King title, largest ship in the world, control confirmed. The Triton's sword wakes its second ability, Control Ghost Ship, and offers me a daily summon from a very short, very famous list. The Black Pearl, the Flying Dutchman. I stand on the dock owning the largest gun in this world's history, and across the city the book feels the plot twitch out of its outline and throws the tantrum of the century. It burns a slice of Count Robin's life force, 10 years of it in one cough, and rips open an astral wormhole above the harbor. Through it comes a deep-sea giant, a 100-meter thing with tusks and barnacles and a head 40 meters long, with instructions to make me its primary target. The book has escalated from stage accidents to kaiju. I finally respect it as a professional. The giant's head clears the wormhole and its eyes find me, and I snap my fingers and the Pluton answers. The main cannon speaks once, a black shell the size of a carriage, straight into that 40-meter face. The harbor's windows bow inward from the sound. The giant screams hard enough to knock a platoon of soldiers off their feet, reconsiders its entire employment situation, and pours itself back through the hole it came from. Bullies fear the strong, the bestiary says. Correct. And tonight, in this harbor, against my personal battleship, everyone is weaker than me. The welcoming committee is already on the dock, and it photographs like a family reunion and reads like a crime scene. Fake Joshua in his blue coat. A fake Spark, identical to the real one shivering beside me down to the tear tracks. And 2 strangers Spark identifies in a whisper. The tall gray one is Fred, the quiet order lecturer who sent a tour group into a god's marinade. The young handsome one is Alan Occam, his assistant. And one more figure, hooded, silent, standing apart, unintroduced, which in my experience is where fights keep their final boss. 3 white sails rise out of the dark sea, the Duke's fleet making port 2 hours early on the book's rented tailwind. Fine. If the script wants him delivered early, I'll set the delivery down hard. My hand rests on the sword of Cortez, and a sudden gale grabs all 3 ships and surfs them the last few hundred meters in one surge, over the floating bridge, onto the dock timbers, with a crunch that makes every gull in the province file a complaint. Subtle? No. Effective? Completely. Because a duke whose ship just landed on land does not stroll down the gangplank into hugs. Brown Lambert appears at the rail with his guards up and his spine straight, staring at his 2 sons waiting on the dock, and asks the exact right question. Joshua, Spark, why are you here? The doubles answer with steel. A black spear condenses in fake Joshua's grip mid-embrace distance. Fake Spark's greatsword swells, both driving at the Duke's chest, and my 2 bullets arrive first, one to shatter the spear, one to slap the greatsword offline and stagger its owner halfway across the dock. Then the sun elixir goes down my throat, and I come off the tree line with wings. 2 blades of pure light unfold from my shoulders, my white trench coat snapping underneath, and I glide down the snowfall shooting on the way in. I want the record to show that Fred and Alan's joint casting, an ugly meteor-summoning collaboration, gets interrupted twice in midair by a man dressed as an angel. Fred's shield bursts. Alan takes one through the chest, emerald blood on the snow, and his half-finished magic circle wobbles, and then the hooded figure extends one palm and steadies the whole array without a word. Told you. Final boss posture. The meteor lands anyway, and out of its green fire assembles a fell golem, a furnace of a thing that cooks the air around it, sailors screaming as their skin blisters at 20 paces. Its health bar is short, and its damage is a war crime, which makes it my first priority, and this is where the One Punch Man's parting gift gets its debut. Hot-blooded Echo. The buff catches, my first shot crits, and the skill chains crit into crit into crit, 4 shots stacking a weak point strike on the way, and the golem's entire 10,000-point furnace of a body evaporates before it finishes standing up. Nearly 13,000 damage in one breath. My own panel double-checks the math and quietly puts its calculator away. Fred's patience dies with the golem. His body splits its seams, black legs unfolding, and he goes full Spider Priest, 3 meters of level 70 Archboss, tentacles coiling off him like the Tide's signature on a contract. Beside him, Alan aims a green ring at me, eyes flooding black, and hisses a fear spell in a language that tastes like drowning. My brand new Purify shrugs it off my soul like lint, and then my Conqueror's Hockey answers for both of them. The mental shockwave staggers Fred mid-transformation and drops Alan into a full stun. And behind them, in the best plot twist this dock has ever hosted, the harbor statue of Brynd Moulton, First Navy Minister, my timid friend from year 125, steps off its pedestal and starts swinging its greatsword at cultists. Courage, kid. I taught your family courage, and apparently the masonry took notes. Alan dies between the statue's 3rd stroke and my 3 shots to the back of his head, and his body collapses into a scatter of small spiders, which is all the confession this case needed. You will regret this, Wayne Stirwell, Fred screams, in the voice of a man whose assistant and lover just turned into pest control. And he's wrong. I regret almost nothing this decade. And then the hooded figure finally sighs and steps between us, and his health bar introduces him. Archmage Damian Lillard, level 74. Lillard, the name from the empty coffin in the Elf King's tomb, the Life Alchemy Society's hidden ancient elf who declined to stay buried, standing on a dock in the snow, deciding I've earned his personal attention. 2 archbosses, 1 demigod adjacent, plus a spider priest, at night, in the wind. I could do this the hard way, or I could introduce them to the version of me that ended an era of pirates. I crush the 7 Seas Overlord card in my fist. The change isn't light or noise, it's weather of the soul. My posture settles into something older and saltier, and the pressure that comes off me makes the nearest warship's planks crack in spiderwebs, and every enemy on this dock, the fakes, the priest, the archmage, bends under the sheer opinion of my presence. Fred's beetles explode mid-flight. Lillard's binding current vaporizes before it arrives. My Conqueror's Hockey, Emperor grade now, skips every ally and folds every enemy, precise as a scalpel and rude as an avalanche. Then I walk to the Spider Priest and take him apart with my hands. Armament Hockey, red, black, and heavy, 7 punches, and on the 7th his defenses quit all at once, and the fight leaves him completely, green mist boiling off what the ripple flame claims. The panel logs the kill, level 70, High Priest of the Quiet Order's whole national parish, and pays 6 figures of experience into an account that has stopped being surprised by anything. Lillard, credit where due, is the strongest thing I've ever traded blows with in this reality. His lightning carries a shard of actual divinity and a guaranteed hit clause. My awakened mist swallows it anyway. My rapier answers with a divine departure, the sword art I learned from a sea god of a swordsman. The crescent of red-black sword light cuts his double ice shields, his robes, and most of his torso, and sends him kite-string flying into a wall. And the wound tells the last secret of the night: no blood, gears, circuits. The archmage on this dock is a puppet body, remote piloted by something older and more careful, and even the puppet decides I'm not worth its chassis, wrapping itself in lightning and teleporting away with an 18-meter sword gouge in the ground behind it as a receipt. The fake suns die on Brown Lambert's own greatsword, bursting into spiders on the snow, which is a hard way for a father to end an ambush, and the Duke handles it with the posture of a man whose family motto is pride and means it. He hears Spark's whole story, start to finish. Then he walks to me through the snow and bows, an actual ducal bow, and says the Lambert family will remember. The quest settles at A rank, the rewards cascade, Lambert family reputation straight to revered, discounts and library access and sequels promised, a random template card, 2 more spins on fate, and in his carriage afterward, over champagne from an island whose terrible weather makes flawless grapes, the Duke pours, and my panel notes with a straight face that the vintage grants +1 spirit, nobility. Even their refreshments have stat blocks. I recount everything I can prove about Robbins, the Quiet Order, the poorhouses, into the ear of the most powerful conservative in the kingdom, and watch the information land like ammunition being racked. The book wanted this man replaced tonight. Instead, he's alive, furious, informed, and aimed. Enjoy the reviews, little broken book. The critics are armed now. The template card from the Lambert Rewards flips over at home, orange glow, and gives me Ultimate Magneto, the blackened master of magnetism on an iron throne, which slots my villain collection to 6 and upgrades the villain bond. My hero collection answers with Aquaman off a completed hero quest, Trident, Sea King Smile, Godlike Swimming, and I file him under Specialist Tools. 2 more skills land from the reward pool, Honeycomb Shot and Storm, a gun devil's paired techniques, both restricted to dual pistols, and my merchant brain does the beautiful arithmetic instantly. Skills locked to dual guns mean every gunslinger in the league needs a second revolver. I sell revolvers. That night, I also finish a quieter project, hunched at my desk with a pen smoking across paper. 228,000 words, hand-transcribed from the manuscripts of a literary version of me who once made a living at this. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, translated into the Brystone tongue. Into an envelope, into the mailbox, addressed to Dacklin First Publishing House. 3 days later, a postman with an autograph seeker's grin hands me the reply. Accepted. 300 Victa advance, 15% royalties, an editor named Edberg writing in exclamation points. Out there, a boy wizard is about to hit a world that already has real wizards, and I genuinely cannot predict what happens next. And for once, in this city, that sentence feels like a vacation. The Panda finishes flying, and the simulator reopens as version 3.0, and the patch notes rearrange my whole future. The interface is prettier, the gacha is crueler, and there are 2 new toys. The first is an affinity system that has quietly started grating my soul. Every heroic life nudges me one way, every villainous one the other, and my current standing reads lawful neutral, drifting good, which mostly means my discounts on being terrible are expiring. 2 new standing quests confirm it, one asking for more great heroes, one cheerfully inviting me to become a world-trembling villain in 3 worlds. Hint, indulge your desires, it's easy. Easy, it says. Machine, some of us have a brand. The second toy is the strange one. Template Cultivation Mode. For a fee, the simulator finds another me, a parallel self with his own life already in progress, and plants him in a random world to grow into a brand new template card over 24 real hours. It's farming, I am now, technically, my own cash crop. I seed 2 plots immediately, an unremarkable actor version of me who gets flung into a world of dateable spirit girls, aggressive growth strategy, Godspeed you beautiful disaster, and a scar-faced Chicago gangster tycoon me who lands in Gotham, moderate strategy, survive first. I close the menu and sit with the philosophical horror for exactly 1 sip of tea. If I can farm parallel me's for cards, then the cards I've been buying all along were farmed by someone, and I decline to finish that sentence. The gacha takes 18,000 Victa off me across 2 10 pulls and returns 3 real items and a lesson about gambling I will not learn. A devil fruit encyclopedia that identifies any fruit I hold, which turns my homemade fruit business from mystery boxes into a priced catalog. Coulson's bracelet, a spy's gadget of grapples and shocks and improvised explosives. And a Navy textbook that teaches me moonwalk, the art of kicking off the air itself. The rest of the pulls are blanks and sad pistols. Gacha games are too harmful, he says, cueing the next feature. Because the rewind mode is on a launch discount, and rewind mode is where my luck lives. I pay, I choose the One Piece world, and I send in the oceanographer, Jotaro me, Doctor of Marine Biology, Punchy Ghost, Lawful Good, Full Autonomy. What follows is the best life anyone named me has ever lived. He drops into the South Blue in 1499, years before any famous pirate set sail, adrift on a plank with no food, and solves breakfast by having his stand punch a fish. He discovers the local ocean has 5 times more species than any ocean he's studied, which for a marine biologist is the equivalent of waking up in heaven with a grant. He tames a 200-ton sea monster by outstubborning it for 3 hours, rides it to an island, and settles down to learn the language. His new neighbor is a friendly retired sailor named Roger. Yes, that Roger. The Pirate King, incognito, dying slowly of an incurable disease, spending his last years next door to a quiet foreigner with a strong handshake. They become best friends over fishing and drinks. Roger teaches him hockey personally, 60 sparring sessions of broken ribs and mutual delight. The greatest pirate who ever lived, and a man with an invisible, time-stopping ghost, hammering each other on a beach at sunrise for the joy of it. When Roger finally sails off to hand himself to the Marines and light the fuse of a new era, he leaves my parallel self his sword and his pistol, like a brother would. My other self attends the execution, stands in the crowd at Logtown while the world's loudest treasure hunt gets announced from a scaffold, and when the blades fall, his stand rises over the plaza, silent and unseen, and punches the great bell of the clock tower once, a single deep toll across the square, a farewell no one can trace. Then he pats a red-headed young pirate named Shanks on the shoulder and walks him out of the crowd before the Marines close the net. From there, the legend compounds like interest. His stand eats a devil fruit on his behalf, and the experiment works. The ghost gains mist powers, while my other self keeps his ability to swim. A loophole so unfair the ocean itself would file a complaint if it could. A celestial dragon, one of the world's untouchable slaver nobles, sinks his new boat over a right-of-way tantrum and announces he collects captain slaves. My other self boards the man's own treasury ship and beats him for 2 full minutes, then throws the entire crew into the sea, 1 collar at a time. The bounty for that afternoon starts at 600 million, the highest debut in recorded history, for the crime of hitting someone everyone alive had dreamed of hitting. He joins Shanks. Technically, he's captain for 90 seconds after winning the vote, renames the crew from red hair to pineapple after his favorite fruit, then hands the wheel back and keeps the naming rights. The Pineapple Pirates collect a doctor with no license, a playboy first mate with a sniper's eye, musicians, monsters, and eventually 2 living legends. Roger's own first mate, Rayleigh, joins. So does the future traitor of another timeline, working the deck like an honest man, because this version of history never gives him his opening. He fights Whitebeard to a draw so violent the Marines classify it as weather, and the newspaper invents the term Sea Emperor for the 2 of them. He refuses Rayleigh's offer of a shortcut to the final island with 1 sentence I'd frame if I could: the part of life you skip never comes back. He turns down the Marines, turns down kings, and when the world government's flag finally becomes the problem itself, he does the thing I'll be bragging about at parties in 2 universes. Alongside Whitebeard's fleet and a revolutionary army, he annihilates the Marine elite in a battle historians name the Summit War. Then he sails to the Holy Land, has his sniper shoot the world's flag off its pole, and walks up the red line to the throne room at the top of the world. The thing on the throne is called Emu, and it owns time the way he owns fists, freezing it, stretching it, rewinding the room around him. A duel inside a maze of hours, flowers blooming and dying mid-punch. It ends the way his duels end, the invincible ghost, the 15 seconds of stopped time he's trained up from 2, and a flurry of blows across what the summary describes, with clinical respect, as 3 or 4 pages. The self-appointed god of the world stops breathing. The slaves go free, the hidden kingdom opens its books, and my other self, offered the leadership of the new world government by unanimous weeping consensus, says no thanks and goes fishing. He finds the all-blue, the mythical sea where every fish in the world swims together, and spends 2 months cataloging it with tears in his eyes. He writes the world's first oceanography textbook. He marries a gentle girl named Elena, names his daughter Jolene, watches her grow up, and, in the fullness of time, marry Roger's son, Ace, which makes my parallel self and the Pirate King posthumous in-laws. And somewhere in the Sea of Souls, I hope Roger laughed himself hoarse. In 1547, the simulation returns him home mid-heartbeat, and the rating screen prints a number I've never seen. 100%. A perfect world, perfectly explored, perfectly left better than he found it. The rewards bury me. The oceanographer evolves into a hidden Apex template called the White Emperor, and the system mints me descent cards, 15-minute possessions of that exact power, and I'm holding 2. The claimed loot includes the Navy's 6 styles, 6 body techniques in one bundle, an unidentified devil fruit that my new encyclopedia reads as the Supa Supa fruit, a body of blades, sellable for a fortune. And the centerpiece, the item my whole shelf of artifacts will now be arranged around, Uranus, the ancient weapon. It looks like a walking stick with a blue gem, it weighs like a myth, and it controls weather across a province the way I control my own breathing. Storms, lightning, fog, snow, on demand, 7 charges of my focus per day. And in clear skies, it drinks the sun and fires a laser that the flavor text describes as highly penetrating, which is artifact speak for goodbye. The legend points from that run tip my total to 5, and the panel crowns me with an epic title, The Legendary. And its perks read like a love letter to my business model. Faster experience, faster reputation, faster affection from every NPC, and my quest board's daily payout limit more than doubled, with A-rank quests now unlocked for me to issue. My name has become infrastructure. I do my push-ups, I read my 2 books, I check my 2 template crops growing in their little worlds. And I look at the walking stick leaning against my desk like a pensioner's cane, containing a god-killing laser, and I say to the empty room, all right, now I'm ready for whatever this city thinks it's preparing. The next morning is supposed to be simple. Meet John at the university, get introduced to his new business partner, sell some skills, go home. The city has other plans, and for once, so does something else. John isn't at the dorm. His note says 4 o'clock, which is strange because John is a walking financial hazard with exactly one virtue, and that virtue is punctuality. While I wait, the neighboring dorm pulls me into its den of vice, where 4 card games are running at once and the reigning tyrant is Fred from next door, a chubby transcendent with an insect-burn deck and a laugh that qualifies as a mental attack. Molly demands we play. I remind her she was once the grand patriarch of an entire church. She reminds me she hasn't won in a long time. So the great priestess of the sun goddess commands my cards through 4 straight games, and we lose all 4. I get burned down by Fred's beetles, mocked in real time, out-teched by a warrior student, and finished off by a classmate whose deck is mostly commons. 0 and 4. I leave with my collar up like a man exiting a courthouse. In 2 universes, I am the god of gunplay, the White Emperor, the #1 NPC. In that dorm room, I am a public service announcement about gambling with your grandmother. The only mercy is that the optical brain has never once filmed my card games. The machine has recorded my baths, my breakfasts, and my kills, but it draws the line at my duels. Even surveillance has taste. On the way out, the campus sports field is packed for a magic ball exhibition. This world's volleyball played with fire and wind mages, starring the national heartthrob Harkins. A spiked ball screams off course toward a young girl in the stands, and I flicker over and catch it one-handed, and the crowd does its crowd thing. But my eyes aren't on the ball, they're on Harkins. Through Chi observation, the superstar's face carries the same deathly pallor I last saw on Joshua Lambert, days before a construction site swallowed him. The unlucky aura is spreading through this city like damp, and it's climbing the celebrity ladder now. And then, crossing the road to my shop, I see the carriage. Coming from the direction of the poorhouse southwest of campus, the driver, gray-haired, cold-eyed, and, to my senses, completely absent of life. The same no-signature blankness I felt standing next to Count Robbins. Before his can even pick an alley to follow through, a second set of wheels rattles in behind it. Sherlock, driving a shabby cab, tailing the dead man at a professional distance, with Leandro and Ian stuffed inside. 2 coincidences in 1 minute. My scalp prickles, and I make a note of the prickle, because I've learned what this city's coincidences cost. Then I jump onto Sherlock's bench anyway, because a lead is a lead, even when someone's handing it to you. Sherlock's brief is tight. The dead-feeling driver is Moloch, butler to Adam Aiden, the former finance minister who originally reported the giant sighting, and the family tree finally connects. The serial killer Jeremy Wayne Aiden is Adam Aiden's relative. The informant who aimed the Sunkeepers at the giant is kin to the monster who runs the orphanage. And dead men make excellent liars, because a corpse can't lose its family's truth-telling magic. The investigation was poisoned at the root months ago by its own first witness. Moloch's carriage stops at the orphanage on Goldfinch Street, the one poorhouse I never got to, and comes out with a passenger. Tall, thick-browed, deep-eyed, and to my spirit sense, smelling of blood and darkness the way a butcher's apron smells of iron. Chris Fisher. The quest chain confirms it with a completion chime that I mute out of respect for the stakeout. Then, it immediately reopens as a tracking mission with a personal note. As a demon, he has keen perception. Stay 200 yards back, or fail. 200 yards, in city traffic, in a horse-drawn tail. The next half hour takes years off me. When a jam forces Sherlock to close the gap or stop suspiciously, I put my hand on the new walking stick and cheat, summoning a precise little gust that shoves a random carriage forward into our lane to stall us legitimately. Sherlock watches the wind commit traffic fraud on our behalf and asks, carefully, if I'm also a meteorologist. Half of one, I tell him. The other half is worse. The trail leads east, out past the city's edge, to a sprawling estate registered to a collateral branch of the Aiden family, and Sherlock stows the cab and pulls out an artifact book that wraps the 3 of us in borrowed shadow. We slip in through the gardens, and what's waiting in the backgrounds stops all 3 of us cold. A small lake. Around the lake, alchemy arrays drawn wide across the ground, with 7 waiting nodes. In the lake, walking a slow patrol like a wound-up toy, the giant. 10 meters of him now, and the face is still the face on the old coins, Charles VI, the king I watched die on a clock tower, remade as livestock. And around the water, a committee. Professor Bislock, in the flesh, animated as a man at his own gallery opening. The Archmage Lillard, hood down now, an ancient elf with graying hair, his puppet body apparently repaired or replaced. Chris Fisher and the dead butler, hauling 7 alchemy barrels of pink, blood-smelling gel. And an impatient middle-aged noble in a dark red tuxedo who wants everyone to hurry up and whose complaints keep orbiting one phrase. His Majesty the King will be delighted. His Majesty, the current one, Charles VII, who blocked every impeachment, who sat comfortable in the series post-credits with all of these people. The son signed off on refining his own father. Bislock delivers the artist's statement while they set the barrels on the nodes. One king's soul can seed 4 alchemy giants. 3 attempts have failed already. This is the 4th, the calibration run, and if the materials run thin, he says, gesturing at the estate's glassy-eyed servants the way you'd gesture at a pantry, the staff can be rendered down to finish the batch. The 7th barrel clicks into place. The array ignites, white lightning walking node to node, the gel boiling off into a column of light that pours into the giant. The thing raises its dead king's face and howls without sound. Its aura starts climbing, extraordinary, then past extraordinary, up the slope where demigods live. Every person around the lake glows with anticipation. My panel quietly posts the final stage of a quest chain months long. Kill the alchemy giant, and appends 3 optional names to the bill. Sherlock's whisper barely has air in it. Can you interrupt it, or do we run? The sun is out. The winter sky is clean and hard and bright. I look up at it, and then at the walking stick in my hand, and something in my chest goes very calm. You 2 step back, I say. If this goes wrong, Run and don't stop for me. Then I aim Uranus at a god under construction, spin up hot-blooded Echo, and pull the trigger on the sunlight. The beam is silent. That's the detail I keep. All that death in one line of light, and it makes less noise than a held breath. It goes through the giant's ascending skull like a needle through steam, and the damage number that blooms over the lake has 5 digits and then some. 71,965, the single largest number this world has ever printed for me. The evolution, mid-climb with nowhere to put its energy, detonates. The dead king's head comes apart in light, and 10 meters of royal alchemy folds into the lake with a wave that flattens the reeds and the committee's composure in the same second. One shot. One king-sized god. Cancelled. Uranus's gem goes dark, drained. 7 days of sunlight owed before it speaks again, and I have never respected a recharge time more. Bizlok turns, and his face is a ruin of disbelief, bloodshot, artistic grief curdling into fury, and he finds me in the shadows and screams my name like a curse he's been saving. Wayne Sturwell, it's you again. Professor, it's always going to be me. Chris Fisher's arm snaps up, and a crimson beam torches the ground where I was standing. Everyone left alive on my panel's bill is an ultra-tier professional, 4 of them, and my last god-killing laser needs a week of sunshine. Fortunately, I brought the other me. I crush the White Emperor descent card, and the estate meets the man who ended the age of pirates. Mist floods the estate in one exhale, thick enough to drown lamplight, and inside it my posture changes hands. Behind my shoulder, faint as a watermark on the world, a platinum figure rises, fists ready, patient as tide tables. The White Emperor's 15 minutes start now, and I intend to spend them like a man robbing his own bank. Chris Fisher gets the first invoice. He's braver than his job description, meets my charge head-on, and mid-lunge he stops being a man at all, bones flaring out of his skull, green fire sheathing him, a demon's voice spitting hellfire in a language that scorches its own syllables. The fireballs come in a fan. My platinum second simply opens one hand and the fan goes out mid-air, snuffed the way you pinch candles, and to everyone else in the mist it looks like the laws of physics took my side out of personal loyalty. Then time stops. I'll never get used to describing it. The rain of sparks hangs. The lake's splash stands like sculpture. I walk through the world's held breath, and my other self's fists do their patient carpentry, and when the clock resumes, the demon that was Chris Fisher is already traveling, limbs wrong, momentum inherited from a dozen blows he never saw. Bizlok's summoned stone golem swings at where I was, collides with the flying demon instead, and both of them cancel out in a spray of clay and green fire. The pendant Fisher wore, some last trinket of his trade, ends up in my platinum second's open palm, presented to me like a receipt. 80 people in a manor garden. 35 confirmed victims that the church knew about. A ghost boy with a spear hole in his chest who only wanted to confess. The orphanage director dies in the mist with his account settled in full, and I do not offer him a confession service. Lillard has stopped disdaining the fight. The ancient elf reads danger with a premonition sense older than this kingdom, and everything in him is screaming now, so he opens with his best, a bolt of lightning carrying real divinity, guaranteed to find its mark. The mist swallows it whole. Then his whole vision goes dark, because something is in front of him, and the something is a fist that starts small and gets extremely large. He plows a trench through the garden with his own spine. 2 layers of emergency ice shield form around him, and my second's flurry takes them apart like wet paper, a drumroll of blows that outruns counting. When it ends, the Archmage's chest is an open cabinet of gears and sparking circuits again. Another puppet. The real Lillard has now spent 2 bodies on me without ever risking his own skin, which tells me 2 things. He's a coward, and he can afford to be. A talisman flares in the wreckage, attack prohibited, some ancient compulsion that actually holds my hands for a heartbeat, and the puppet uses its bought second to wrap itself in lightning and flee to wherever its owner keeps his spares. Which leaves Bizlok, king refiner, crossbow artist, council member, and the man who once shot a monarch off his own clock tower. Time stops one more time. I take 3 steps through the standing world, lift him by the collar into the resumed second, and headbutt him with everything the serum, the training method, and 5 lifetimes of grudge have built. He folds like a deck chair. Alive, because the Sunkeepers will want the contents of that head, and because there are worse fates than my fist, and he's earned an introduction to all of them. The last man standing is the tuxedo, hands up, shrieking his credentials into the mist. Don't come closer, I am Bobby Sawyer, advisor to His Majesty the King. Sherlock walks out of the fog with handcuffs and the driest voice in the kingdom. Then His Majesty can visit you in custody, Earl Sawyer. The panel settles the season's accounts in one avalanche. The giant, dead. The chain of hidden quests, months long, from a ghost boy in a manor garden to a god on a leash, all stamped complete, the grade an A+. The experience, a 7-figure lump that would have leveled the me from the haunted house 100 times over. Sunkeeper's reputation into revered. Rewards queued in a stack I'll be opening for a week. And underneath all of it, one cold splinter that won't come out. I got here through a chain of coincidences. John's uncharacteristic no-show, the card game that held me in place, the magic ball that delayed me 2 minutes, exactly long enough to see Moloch's carriage. Sherlock arriving on the same street in the same breath. Any one of them, chance. All of them, in sequence, on the day of the 4th and final calibration. More than 3 coincidences is a signature. The little broken book steered me here. The same book that has spent months writing my death rehearsed this scene with me cast as the weapon, aimed precisely at Bislock's masterpiece, and I performed it in one take. I don't know why the playwright wanted the Society's god dead. Rival production, maybe. A better part for me in a later act, maybe. But in this city, a page has already turned, and on it, in a neat, obsessive hand, my name is written into a finale I haven't read. Let it write. I've been ahead of the script since the haunted house. The days after are the sweetest this world has given me, and I take them slowly, like the wine. Mrs. Turin meets me in the lane by the shop, pushing old Turin's wheelchair, and she's rosy, upright, vivid, the flat line of her soul thread climbing back into a living curve. The concoction of cores worked. The Grandmaster's last great work was a breakfast lady's second act, and I helped carry the materials, and I'd trade every artifact on my shelf to feel this specific way twice. They're moving home to Brusina, the little coastal town where he was born, going back to where the story started, together, upright, unhurried. Before they go, the old man waves me close with the world's most suspicious wink, and declares that a young man like me should visit Brusina someday. The sea air there builds character, and Mrs. Turin beams and promises to cook when I do. I walk home lighter than I've walked all year. Some rewards don't fit in an inventory. The city's other ledgers close in a rush. My Harry Potter deposit clears, with an editor's letter so enthusiastic the exclamation points bruise the page. Richie Burke, official guild officer now, moves my mithril golem carcasses through 3 kingdoms' black markets at prices that make him tear up with patriotism for me, and swears loyalty by the sea god, which, in this world, is a binding contract with teeth. The guild base grows storefronts around my alchemy shop like coral. Jinsei hits level 39.5, and the whole world leans toward the starting gun, because the moment she touches 40, the professional league begins, and my final pre-league harvest breaks every record my greedy heart ever set. I release the Wayne's 6 styles, 6 body techniques renamed after myself with 0 shame, plus a body of Blade's devil fruit at a price with a comma in it, and the queue outside my shop bends around the block like a festival. And in the quiet after closing, I dump the season's experience into the one place it belongs. My Demon Hunter class climbs from 38 straight through its ceiling, level 45, maxed, attribute bonuses reigning, and the panel offers me the capstone, the choice that will echo down every hunter who ever follows my path. 3 specializations gleam in the dark of my room, a combat intuition that answers attacks before they land, a bully's craft for punishing the slowed and the frozen, an expert's mastery that sharpens every weapon I love. I reach out to choose, and I let my hand hang there a second, savoring it. Look at the shape of this year. It started with a man tied to a pillar in a 2-victa haunted house, whose whole fortune was 7 coins looted off the people who'd planned to bleed him out for a god. It ends with a man who owns a guild, a flying ship, a battleship with a god-killing cannon, a pirate crew, a publishing contract, a dragon, and a walking stick that argues with the sun, choosing which of 3 legends every future gunslinger will inherit, while the first esports league in 2 worlds waits for his employee to level up so it's allowed to begin. The cult lost its priest, the society lost its god, the palace lost its alibi. And me, I lost a hat, to a little girl in the rain outside a poorhouse, and I intend to bill this city's masters for it in person. Because the little broken book is still out there, writing. It knows my name, it's rehearsed my death, And now it's borrowing my gun for errands I don't understand. And somewhere past the last page, it's planning a cataclysm with my city as the stage and me as the lead. The optical brain has already printed the poster. The Cataclysm of Daklin, coming soon, starring Wayne Sturwell, whether he auditions or not. Fine, I've read a lot of scripts across 5 lifetimes. I've never once followed